was a failure, and that's why, he lost the confidence of the Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary.
Well, look, I want to come to that, because I've been entertaining myself by reading the rules here. But before we get on to that, let's just deal with the personnel question. Ollie Robbins was on the Prime Minister's shortlist of 4 Mandarins to be Cabinet Secretary. He didn't get that job, but he and the Deputy Prime Minister were so impressed by Robbins, they gave him the next best job in the civil service, Permanent Secretary at the Foreign Office, on a 5-year contract. What does this tell us about the Prime Minister's judgment of people? Pretty poor.
I don't agree with that. I think the failure of judgment here was the failure to tell the Prime Minister that,
Yeah, that was the failure. The failure was not on Sir Keith. No, it was on everybody else who definitely wasn't the Prime Minister electing Yum Yum. Not electing, positioning Yum Yum. No.
And on top of this, they could have just basically been able to not get away with it as such, but at the very least have some kind of plausible deniability here. If they'd gone, oh, okay, fair enough, it was not within his remit to tell us this stuff, so that's why Keir Starmer didn't know, and Ollie Robbins is clear. No sacking, no nothing. Cool, that's the line that we're going with. Tough shit, the Keir Starmer didn't know. And then that would have all blown over. But the fact that they've sacked this guy because they needed a fall guy has opened up this whole other can of worms about who they're happy to throw under the bus. So now they're trying to say, actually, he should have told us because it's nothing to do with the Undersecretary whether or not we get told, and they can tell us if they want. I'm just like, why are you trying to get rid of your only alibi here?
Not just that, but he did know. He obviously knew. This is a lie. We know he knew because he was told in September. So the idea that he learned last week is untrue.
Well, his Director of Communications was told in September last year, and I'm sure at no point that might have been relayed to Keir Starmer at all. No. But then again, at this point, we all know the Keir Starmer government is Keith, Harris and Orville, where Keir Starmer is Orville and Morgan McSweeney has his hand up Keir Starmer's arse. Therefore, could Keir Starmer conceivably not know anything? Well, of course he could. Right? Of course it is conceivable that Mr. being sat in front of the DLR might not even know he's inside a fucking train.
Yeah, literally. But unless he's told he's inside a train, of course, which he does need to have everything spelled out to him, like he lives in a fucking Ben Garrison cartoon.
Peter Mandelson, who actually is responsible for all of this. Let me just say that, and I will answer all your questions.
Whoa, hang on a minute. Rewind. Oh, Peter Mandelson's to blame for all of this. He didn't ask to be appointed. I probably actually did, to be fair.
Yeah,
He probably did tell McSweeney, I want to be the ambassador. Tell fucking Orville to appoint me. Yes, please, I would like to appoint Peter Mandelson to this position. Yeah, okay, maybe that did happen, but the onus is on Keir Starmer as the man who essentially makes the final decision to not appoint Lord Yum Yum, friend of Jeffrey Epstein, to the position of US ambassador.
And then consistently lie at every turn, including now. They're lying now. So even if he survives this, again, this is a repeated pattern. I think this has happened 3 or 4 times where I've had to point out that they're lying now and that will be outed and this story will blow up again. So whether he survives this or not is irrelevant. In 2 or 3 months' time we'll be back because it will be revealed that he lied about knowing or whatever. Because this always happens, because if you keep lying, those lies will be exposed, because we don't live in some fucking secretive state where things don't get out. People like to... You work in politics, you have everyone around you is a fucking snake, and they have the information and they will store it for the maximum opportunity to fuck you up. Like, for instance, if you had sensitive election results coming up that were going to be very, very bad for you, yeah, they might wait for that to happen and then drop it on you to finish you off, sort of deal.
It's so true, so true. Although what is funny, watching all the Labour MPs just parade themselves around on Twitter going, I know Keir Starmer, I know what he is. He may not be perfect, but one thing he isn't is a liar. And I'm like, that's literally the only thing we all know about him. The whole point, literally none of us know anything about this man believes or thinks or does or knows or anything, because it's all fucking lies and artifice and subterfuge. What's this man's favourite thing? Your favourite food, favourite film. I don't fucking know. He likes the Traitors. I know about that. I know his dad was a fucking drill bit. That might not be true.
I was about to say, we know more about his fucking dad than we do about him.
Exactly. I'll tell you what, though, I do know his favourite film, and it's a James Bond film, Dr. No Hinterland.
Dr. No vocal cords. Love it.
The person that I'm angry with
Yeah, but the
is
person who
Peter
got sacked
Mandelson here.
is Ollie Robbins.
Well,
A
so
year
did Peter
ago,
Mandelson,
he was
Trevor.
good enough to get the number 2 job running
I would
the
just-
country, and suddenly he's become a liability.
Yes, I think it was a real serious mistake not to tell the Prime Minister or the Foreign Secretary that the Foreign Office took a different view from UK security vetting.
How, again, I'm sorry, they're grown adults. You don't get to plead ignorance on this. Your job is to literally not be ignorant of this. If you are incapable of doing that job, you need to step aside. If you did do that job and you ignored that information, you should step aside.
And the thing as well on top of this is she's essentially saying here, I can't believe that he hid this information and that the Foreign Office took a different view from the vetting. I.e. that somehow Ollie Robbins was the one here who took it upon himself to say, actually, I really like PT. I really like Lord Yum Yum. I really want him in this position, so I'm going to overrule this of my own volition. And definitely not at all in any sense, because I am being pressured into doing so by moron McSchemy.
Yeah. And again, just so we don't get lost in the trees here, the information that he was very, very good friends with a convicted paedophile was known at the time of his appointment, because you and I were doing this exact thing on a Sunday a few years ago when it actually happened, saying, why have you just ensconced a fucking pedo's friend as our ambassador to the United States? So if you and I knew, I would expect those in power to know, or those in office to know.
Well, it's doubly infuriating for us because at the time, everybody in politics was saying, oh, what an interesting appointment they've got. This is the kind of man who goes in the same skeezy social circles as Donald Trump, therefore he's an ideal ambassadorial pick. Incredibly forensic, Sir Keir. And yet, outside of all of everybody else saying this, even Farage said this, the left were saying, this guy's a friend of Jeffrey Epstein. This is insane. What the fuck are you doing? Right? It's a really great Aaron Bastani tweet. From the time, essentially going, this is totally unconscionable. The fact that people are going around pretending that it's anything other than unconscionable is insane, right? The actual tweet is, Sir Keir Starmer went on about standards in public office when it came to the Tories. Now he's making a man who has had to resign twice from cabinet UK ambassador to the United States. A reminder, Mandelson allegedly called Epstein in jail to secure a meeting with Jamie Dimon mad. This is from the 19th of December 2024, right? Yep. This is the call that the left were making from the beginning. And of course, as we are Cassandra, we are late. We are too early to the party. We are correct too early. The second point I wanted to make too is that Keir Starmer can't play fucking unknowing. He can't play the ignorance card because he was asked on camera, on Sky News, in a live fucking press event by the Financial Times, Jim Pickard. We know, because of a JP Morgan report, all these things about Peter Mandelson and his relationship with Epstein. What can you comment on that, given that we knew at the time, this is before the election, that Peter Mandelson was one of your close aides, right? What was your comment on this? And he goes, oh, I don't know much about Peter Mandelson's links to Epstein as you do. And I'm like, fucking look! Yeah. Find out! Be in any way curious about the people who you currently are being advised about and that you potentially might make US ambassador in future.
Yeah, indeed. But again, like you say, it's a curse to be right before James O'Brien reveals that he has been wronged by being lied to about being wrong in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not just at the start.
I get that point.
I think that was wrong.
Let's just bear in mind, you just said Peter
confidence.
Mandelson was the problem. The person who chose both Peter Mandelson and Ollie Robbins, actually, was the Prime Minister.
Peter Mandelson withheld information at the start of this whole thing.
Right, but you had enough information to know that he was Yum Yum, friend of Nance Boy. That was all very well understood at the time.
Yep. And again, as I pointed out, like, Keir Starmer was asked about this in April of 2024, live on camera. Like, you do not get to play ignorance at all. We know it. It's all live to see. Although, to be fair, Keir Starmer basically got away with telling lies that can be easily disproved by video evidence for the entirety of the time as Labour leader, because, of course, the only people who were being harmed by that were the left. So that was never brought up. And we've seen all this compilation, and we've seen all these compilations of Keir Starmer having you play side-by-side videos of him contradicting himself, but this just goes around left-wing Twitter, not in terms of actual media scrutiny.
I believe he does have that right. Just saying.
But yeah, like it's just infuriating again that they just continually pass the buck on this stuff.
Yeah. Well, again, the Prime Minister can't be held accountable. He's never done anything wrong because he doesn't understand anything. And that's good, apparently. That's fine.
Repeatedly lied, and he is who I am angry with, because there has been in recent days no mention.
You say that he withheld information. Everybody in the country who could read.
This is going really well for you, Liz. I think you're coming across fantastically. You should definitely keep up this patronising, stuttering tone. And whilst Trevor Phillips, a man who if you wanted to, you could drop a nuke on and say, well, why did you choose him as your best man, you fucking prick? Or something like that, right? But no, you're not going to do that because you're all thick as thieves. And so you're just going to stutter your way through it as he rinses you on TV. For fuck's sake.
A newspaper knew all the things that the Prime Minister then said was wrong with Peter Mandelson. Everybody knew it.
Let me just say this, and I will answer that question. But throughout all recent days, there's been...
And again, they all knew it, and they all came out and said, what an inspired choice. He's a political savant. Sir Starmer, KC.
SKS.
Any mention
SKS. Love it.
of who has really suffered from this, which is the women who were trafficked and abused by Jeffrey Epstein. And
right, firstly, amazing pause game there. That is special. And secondly, if you cared about the victims all that much, why did you get Yum Yum to become the ambassador to the United States? Because we know now that he literally talked with Jeffrey Epstein via email, I believe, suggesting that he was going to lobby on his behalf for an early release. Just before he was then paid, again, for legal reasons, completely unconnected to that, tens of thousands of pounds by Jeffrey Epstein. I'm sure those two things have nothing in common. There's no connection between those two states of affairs. Those are just two independent facts that we are aware of. Yeah.
And a man who...
And also, yes, Greg Davis has fucked this creature. Yes. That is literally correct.
The heart of this covered up the information about his relationship here. But the Prime Minister, I think, is right to say, and the Foreign Secretary, that as it was wrong not to tell them that he had not passed the UK security vetting, and he would not have been appointed if the Prime Minister had known that at the time.
By the way, did you know that, Greg Davis and Liz Kendall?
Yeah, I did that.
Because those are two gross people, physically.
Case now is that everybody should have had the women concerned, the women who were exploited, who were trafficked by Epstein. Everybody should have had those women at the front of their mind, and I agree with you.
Good.
Why did the Prime Minister appoint somebody who he knew at the time of appointment had been a friend of Epstein's, who he could have known if he had just read the paper or somebody told him, had stayed in Epstein's home, and who was still in contact with Epstein and would have had to say so if the Prime Minister had actually asked him? You will
know, Trevor, that the Prime Minister has rightly, in my view, said that the appointment was a mistake, and he's apologised for that.
No. This is not the point I'm making. You're just saying anybody who had any sense, cared about this, thought about the women involved,
I'm just saying
would have taken a different decision. The Prime Minister had all that information at his disposal at that point. He still made the decision. So, is he one of the people who ignored...
All I'm going to say is, when did this guy develop a backbone? When did this happen?
Well, it's weird as well, because when he did his polemic about... Peter Mandelson at the time of the information being made public. He was just like, well, this guy's clearly just been greedy, or he's been stupid and silly. And I'm just like, maybe he's just a fucking wrong'un, mate.
Yeah.
I know you're trying to like give as much plausible deniability as to why your friendship with him, your good friendship with him, was somehow okay, but now he's disgraced. You can find a way of weaseling your way out of it. But now he's just like, so terrible appointing this person to this position, given what we owe. Naughty Keir Starmer. Good, correct. He's not wrong to call out Keir Starmer and all the people in the Labour government who allowed this to happen. But weren't you mates with Yum Yum as well?
Yeah, you might say best mates, or he was the best man, perhaps. You know, whatever.
Nor the women.
Absolutely not.
What he must have done is, by your logic.
Let me tell you.
Why did he appoint Peter Mandelson?
Let me tell you this. I have never had a Prime Minister in my lifetime who has cared as much or has done as much about violence against women and girls.
You're still not
Women
answering my
and girls.
question.
What the fuck is that? I mean, even if that were true, which I'm not entirely sure is correct, but regardless of that, so that doesn't change the fact that Yum Yum was appointed. That literally doesn't matter. It's like I don't give a fuck about his transport policy either in regard to this, or healthcare spending. Why did he do this bad thing, Liz?
Again, because they can't say. Because they can't say, because of course the real answer is Morgan McSweeney wanting to do a solid for his bestie.
Yeah.
That's literally it, right?
Yeah.
They wanted to do a solid for his bestie because Peter Mandelson not only was involved with Labour Together, not only was he the person who brought Morgan McSweeney into the fold as part of his Excalibur compromise project under New Labour, not only was Peter Mandelson advising on cabinet reshuffles, he was also being allowed to vet potential Labour MPs as part of their fucking rigging process for parliamentary candidate selection, because ostensibly people like Starmer and co believed that Peter Mandelson was an incredibly good judge of character. We meant to believe this shit? We meant to believe this shit? It wasn't just all a fucking ruse to ensure that the fucking New Labour honchos, the dynasty that represents New Labour, with Peter Mandelson at the top passing the baton down to Morgan McSweeney as the new fixer, and this wasn't just a way of being able to give him a positional hand shandy at the ambassadorial office. Like, how? Like, this is clearly what happened, as far as I'm concerned, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what other justification could there possibly be for appointing this guy who, again, who'd been out of the actual mainstream of politics for ages and was only engaging in the background via Labour Together and Morgan McSweeney? The only reason you would have given this person this plum ambassadorial post would have been because you wanted to make sure you were doing scratching back for what he did for Keir Starmer and the Labour Together wrecking project during the Corbyn era.
Yeah, it's political nepotism and corruption, which, you know, was always on the cards. Even when they were saying end the Tory chaos, you could see it coming down the line. There was going to be no end to the chaos.
That's the thing, right? Is that of course it was going to be chaotic. It's New Labour. These people are all scum. They're villains. It's a nest of vipers. And now that they've excised the left from their party, there's nobody left for them to attack. They start eating each other. They start biting each other's heads off. Whether it's, you know, Wes Streeting going after Keir Starmer, going after Morgan McSweeney, going after Ollie Robbins, going after Liz Kendall. They're all at it, right? They can't keep off each other. They can't get off each other's backs for 5 minutes because all they know is infighting. All they know is ruining people's careers. All they know is backstabbing and political intrigue. They don't know anything about policy or making the world a better place. That's all they care about. They're sociopaths. That's what they are.
A wretched hive of scum and villainy.
True.
He cared so much, and this was such a big deal, why did he appoint somebody he knew was an associate of a convicted paedophile
Well,
that
you
stayed
will
in
know
his
that
home?
he withheld information about it, that he lied about the extent.
Dickhead! We know he stayed in his fucking flat whilst he was in jail. That was known at the time.
He had a pet name. Jeffrey Epstein called him Petey. This was all in the JP Morgan report that was made public in 2023.
Oh, it's so fucking gross. Every aspect of it is the skeeziest shit. Yum yum. But no, Peter Mandelson lied, and the man that was the head of the Crown Prosecution Service was just like, yeah, cool. Don't need to look into that at all. No, that's fine.
This is what's so insane about the idea that Keir Starmer is just a little boy with a propeller hat and a lollipop
Yeah.
who's been keeping innocent of all of the nasty goings on at the back, right? Rather, he's supposed to be the forensic one. He's supposed to be the exacting one who is extracting confessions as a barrister, forcing people to admit guilt as chief prosecutor through very, very forensic examining of evidence. And this is the man that we're supposed to believe when, I guess everything is fine with the Epstein stuff. Sure, go ahead, have very high level security clearance. Not a problem. Oh, that's Ollie Robbins' fault that he was put in despite failing. Well, no skin off my nose. I didn't need to ask, and I didn't need to know. I am but a wee baby boy. I am but a fragile hummingbird who must be treated with due care and attention.
Bereft of hinterland, the Prime Minister stepped on yet another rake.
Of his relationship.
Everybody...
And that is why the Prime Minister...
Everybody in the country knew that.
That is why the Prime Minister said that that appointment was a mistake and has apologised about it.
Someone must have done the edit of Keir Starmer as Sideshow Bob, stepping on the rakes. That must have happened by now, surely.
And where we started on all of this, Trevor, rightly so, is you want to know why Sir Ollie Robbins lost the confidence of the Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary. And the truth...
Also, it's such a posho thing to do that even though you're a Sir, it's not Sir Oliver, it's Sir Ollie. Actually, I'm Ollie, yeah. I'm just regular old Ollie playing some rugger, yeah.
The truth of it is, I think it was wrong not on such a serious and important and high-profile appointment not to tell the Prime Minister that Peter Mandelson was not given the go-ahead by UK security vetting. That was wrong, that was a mistake, and that is why he's lost their confidence.
So, when the Prime Minister...
Yeah, when you think about it, really, Keir Starmer is the biggest victim of Jeffrey Epstein.
Yep.
Definitely, 100%. He's been let down by all of these people not telling him about how all of his mates are fucking nonces. Terrible stuff.
Literally.
Makes a mistake knowing what everybody in the country knew. He can come along and say, oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. And we go, OK, fine.
I don't think...
Yet, everybody else who makes a mistake...
Liz, this is so good for your career. This interview's amazing. Oh, please keep it up, honestly. You might be sacked by tomorrow. Who knows?
Mistake. Robbins, McSweeney, Gray lose their job. Why isn't he losing his job?
Because the Prime Minister...
Very true.
...and the big calls facing this country has made the right calls.
Where's
Boris
that?
Johnson. Literally, Boris Johnson. It's one-to-one. Everything from Operation Save Big Dog to all of the different Fall Guys, from the I didn't know, okay, I did know, but I didn't know at the time. Actually, I did know all of the time. Oh, it's my fault. I'm sorry. I just made a mistake. I'm but a wee baby boy. I'm not the most powerful person in the country who has been former head of the Crown Prosecution Service, who should know better than to make these stupid fucking mistakes at a time of national fucking importance. And then they go, well, he may have done all of these bad things and got all of this wrong, but he got the big calls right.
Also, what big calls did he get right? Can someone point me in the direction of these big calls that he's absolutely smashed it out of the park on? Because it seems like he's fucked up every aspect of government, in all honesty.
It's almost like they didn't have a plan for government at the start. This is what's so humiliating about all of this, is that they literally did not know what they were going to do. And they had 3 months where they expected Sue Gray to do it, and then they fired her when she was like, I'm not the policy person. I'm a civil servant. That's your job. You had a manifesto, didn't you? And they're like, oh, I can't believe you've not done policy for me. So they fired her because, again, another fucking fall guy for the failures of these absolute cretins.
And you can tell how forensic Keith is, that he sacked her for not coming up for a plan for the first 100 days of government after 100 days had already passed. Okay, I mean, by definition, your 100-day plan has to be done inside the 100 days, unless you have a fucking time machine. Like, this guy was the head of the fucking CPA. No wonder there's never a fucking rapist who ever gets convicted of anything. These dickheads couldn't fucking tell their ass from their elbow, let alone put a case together.
It's like you hideous lemon for the £5. What's more likely, confidence vote or resignation after the elections? Surely they're waiting until after the elections. There'll be no point.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, literally, because even if he was to, like, say, "Oh, I'll step down," blah blah blah. That's not going to happen until after the election, because it's what, fucking not even 20 days it'll go away. Like, yeah, you might as well at this point. There's literally no purpose other than, I suppose, you know, morality, but that doesn't factor into Westminster politics.
I guess you could get them to have. He could just step down and say, "Look, I'm going to remain interim prime minister because of the international situation, and we'll have a leadership contest until after the May elections or whatever."
No, that's what I mean. Yeah, even if he were to like step down, or to you know, say he was going to step down, he's still going to be prime minister until after the elections anyway.
Yeah.
Like, unless he dies, he's going to be prime minister in the beginning of May. So yeah.
Whether that is on the war and saying that we will not get involved with a war with no...
Which we are involved with. Like, you can't have it both ways. You can't say we're actively engaged in shooting down drones and letting the US use our bases, but we're not involved. That's not how that works. Do you know what the word involvement means?
no clear objective and no clear exit plan, whether it is on the crucial issues of investing in the defence of this country. You asked me a question.
You've just told me you got it wrong.
Because on the fundamental judgments facing this country, whether it's on international issues, rebuilding our relationship with the EU, saying we won't get involved in the war, investing in our defence, or whether it's on domestic issues, lifting children out of poverty.
When have you done this? You kept them in poverty. You kept them in poverty for 2 years. Thanks. Yeah, great. Yeah.
Well, it turns out you didn't get the big call right, because the big call was right at the start, where you withdrew the whip from 7 of your own MPs for doing the thing that you're now admitting was really, really good, right?
Yeah.
That was the big call. In fact, what you're admitting there, Liz, is you got the call wrong, because you had to fucking backtrack.
Yeah. Exactly. You can't say you got the big calls wrong when even the things you're doing right are U-turns on the things you initially did wrong.
Literally.
Tackling violence against women and girls. All of the big...
How are you actually tackling... Can someone point to that to me as well? How are you tackling violence against women and girls?
They've raised the salience of the issue by appointing a friend of a rapist and sex trafficker, right? That's raised the salience. That they're raising awareness.
Exactly. They've got the talk of rape and sexual abuse of women and girls on the front page of every newspaper for the last week.
So true.
Just saying.
Fundamental issues facing this country.
Honestly, you can list.
Has made the right. Well, that's how I look at. You ask me.
You can list all of those things, but
yes,
we are discussing.
Yes, I can, and I'm very proud to.
The appointment to the most important diplomatic post that the country can offer, in a situation where we are dealing with what your colleagues have said to me,
and when he found out,
is a capricious and unreliable ally. Somebody who sees the most sensitive document.
True, but who's more capricious and unreliable than Peter Mandelson? It takes a cunt to catch a cunt, you know? Game recognises game. And if there's anyone who can really talk Trump's language, it's someone who was also very good friends with Jeffrey Epstein. They can bond over their time on the island.
Knows all the secrets, knows who our spies are and all of that. You're just telling me this is actually not that important. He made a mistake, and frankly, all he has to do is come to the dispatch box, say, you know what, sorry, mate, I made a mistake. Can we get on with some other stuff now?
Tomorrow is going to be a bit of a bloodbath, I think, because he's going to go before the Commons and make his statement. And they're going to get increasingly angry as he's... like, Keir Starmer does this thing, right? Where it literally does not matter what question you ask him. You could ask him, how long's a piece of string? How long does it take to boil an egg? How tall is the Mount Everest? And he'll always give the same answer, which was the thing that Morgan McSweeney has told him to say. So literally, look, he was being asked about, like, on Fox News by on Sky News by Sam Coates. What was it? Something about why did you appoint him? Blah blah blah. And he just went, "I'll speak to Parliament on Monday, and I'll do the thing, and blah 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 blah." And then he was asked a completely different question, and he said the same fucking thing. So it doesn't matter what you ask him. Ask him what his favourite colour is, and he'll just say, "I'm going to speak to Parliament on Monday."
To do a ministerial statement on my favourite colour. My favourite example of this, right? Do you remember when Natalie Elphicke defected to the Labour Party.
Would that be the former Tory MP who only became an MP because her husband was a rapist who had to step down?
But she defended, of course.
Well,
When
yeah,
he was
yeah.
asked this-
But no,
but-
Keir Starmer really cares about women and girls, you know.
Because it's true. It's true. I think it's when when Keir Starmer was asked this about Natalie Elphicke, like, what? Why are you allowing somebody who defended their sexual assaulting husband in public as a Labour MP? His response was literally just the cook. I said, "I'm delighted to welcome Natalie Elphicke into the Labour Party," and I'm just like, you literally have just gone from sexual assault to "I am delighted," and just like this man is it's Keith Harrison Orville.
Literally. Hello there, Hannah Reloaded. And the point I'm about to make is not related to Hannah's status as a trans person, but I am going to make a trans point anyway, which is that another way in which Keir Starmer, because we're currently talking about the British government, welcome in, you can hit the follow button, go and follow No Justice as well. Another way in which they're letting down women who suffer violence is the fact that their attack on LGBTQ rights, in the form of taking away protections and medication for trans people, will ultimately lead to far more violence against trans people.
Mm-hmm.
Undoubtedly. So they don't give two fucks about any of those things.
But Kevin, they are the hated pig people. The violence against them doesn't matter because they're scum.
Yes. We should point out that is satire and sarcasm.
Yeah, I'm not calling myself scum. I mean, I am scum, but not because I'm transgender. The government certainly thinks I'm scum, though.
Exactly. You're scum on entirely your own basis.
Exactly. If I'm going to be called scum, I'm going to do it on my own terms.
Exactly.
So I think he is an honest man. And
You're scum for crunching too loudly to the next to the fucking microphone, is what it is.
I have popcorn because this is too good.
Well, to be fair, this is popcorn worthy. I have to. You know what? I'll withdraw my previous statement.
Like everybody else.
And a man of integrity who says it was a mistake to appoint him, and he removed Peter Mandelson.
Okay.
And I think that...
Didn't remove him from the Lords, did I? Didn't remove him from the Labour Party, did I?
What's crazy, right? Again, the line that they're trotting out yet again is this is a man of honesty and integrity. And literally all we know about him is that he lies. All we know is it's lies, deceit, subterfuge, whether it is calling Jeremy Corbyn, sorry, not Billy Corgan, right? Whether it's calling Jeremy Corbyn a friend, whether it's calling Jeremy Corbyn a friend as well as a colleague, and then just saying that he never said that, even though it's on video, the whip removal from Diane Abbott, all the policies that he dropped, like gender self-ID, promising to look after the disabled and trying to cut their welfare, promising to increase tax on the top 5% of earners, or whether it's abolishing tuition fees or nationalising mail, energy, water, whether or not it's about having an immigration system based on humanity, whether or not it's about having a vote in the Commons before military action that we're now doing, whether or not it was anything to do with not doing factional selections, trying to unite the Labour Party. Just an absolute litany from top to bottom of an entire political existence based on deception, based on lies, based on continual subterfuge. It's incredible that they seem to continue treating the public with such contempt that they can try and describe him as being honest and having integrity. They genuinely think that people who engage with politics are stupid, are morons, are like chumps, that they can keep doing this. It takes the public for absolute fools. And you know what? It would be infinitely better if they just said, yeah, unfortunately, because we had to, purge the trots, we just lied anyway. And because we wanted to win the election, we lied and we got elected, but judge us on our record at the end of it. I would have far more, time for that. Even though I wouldn't have much time, it's still bad, but it's still better than just continually pretending like they haven't lied when they obviously have. Everyone thinks this, left, right, even some centrists think he's a liar because of tax policy or whatever. They all think that he lied because he did, over and over and over again, constantly, for the last 10 fucking years. Don't come to me, Liz, and pretend this is a man of honesty and integrity. Nobody is buying it. No one in the country buys it. He has infinitely low approval rating, lower than any prime minister ever in the history of polling, purely on the grounds that everyone knows that he lies. Every poll says this, every word cloud says this, every single thing that you hear from the public is about the lack of honesty of this man. So don't come to me talk about honesty and integrity. It just won't fucking wash.
Yeah.
That he is a man of honesty and integrity. And you know what, Trevor? Tomorrow in the House of Commons, he will face all of these issues and questions, and he will
And he won't answer them. He'll have a pre-prepared line, and he will repeat it 50 fucking times. But, you know, I'll still watch.
Yep.
All the facts before Parliament.
All right, he's been out and he's had some things to say himself. I just want to check some of them. Is it correct that Peter Mandelson agreed that the conditions of his appointment should be varied in a way that meant, for example, he wasn't permitted to meet former clients? And if so...
Which is definitely a thing you would put in place with someone who was incredibly trustworthy.
And how did Keir Starmer not know this? How could Keir Starmer not have been aware of the different level of security clearance and the mitigation factors that were in place for Peter Mandelson?
Yeah.
How would he have not known this? These
No.
people spoke all the time. He was in WhatsApp chats with all the cabinet ministers.
Yep.
Why would Oliver Robbins raise a red flag over that? They'd made an arrangement. It was a done deal. Presumably...
Ollie Robinson? Really?
The wicket-keeper or the bowler?
The Prime Minister knew
Well, I'm thinking bowler. Yeah.
about that. Why would he tell the Prime Minister?
Why would who tell the Prime Minister?
Why would Ollie Robbins? The security vetting was done and all of that. The regulations and the law, the Constitutional Reform and Governance Act, which I had the pleasure of reading yesterday. I also read
Always do
the
your
diplomatic.
homework, Trevor.
I also read the diplomatic service regulations. Robbins is not required to tell anybody anything other than that the candidate, in this case Mandelson, had been granted developed vetting. The information from the Security Vetting Service is advisory. So he is not legally required to tell anybody anything. Why should he?
Well, you'll know that the Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper, has written to the Foreign Affairs Select Committee to say she has ordered an urgent review of all the facts and information that's been provided to the committee. And I think that...
Honestly, it's just more Operation Save Big Dog. Yeah, we need an investigation, not into the corruption at the heart of government, no. Why we weren't informed of the thing we already knew that we're pretending not to have known. Brilliant.
will be made available, and the Prime Minister, as I said, is going to come in front of MPs tomorrow to lay out all the...
He's going to come in front of MPs?
And to answer people's questions about who said what and when and what people are
Downing
required
Street's
to
asked you to
know.
come
True,
out this
true,
morning
true.
to
Hang on a
try
minute.
and
He will answer questions with the same answer every time.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Plants McGee, for pointing out. Apparently, the USA have taken control of an Iranian ship that attempted to run the blockade. So that's getting a bit. It's getting a bit.
World War Three. World War Three. World War Three.
Actually, I offered to come on to talk about social media and AI, but let's put that to one side.
Sadly, that may come a bit later in this interview, if we have time. But you are representing the government this morning.
Yes, I am.
Do you know if Downing Street knew about the arrangement, the understandings that Oliver Robbins made with Peter Mandelson to deal with business interests and all that, what they call the mitigations that arose out of the security vetting?
Well, they know that he was granted this developed vetting status, and I'm sure in the information
But did they know about the mitigations?
Mitigations are often put in place, as you know, with a whole range of appointments.
Did they
that are
know?
made
Answer the question.
Did you threaten to overrule him? No.
It's going to have to come to that. I mean,
I'm not asking whether you overruled him. I'm saying, did you threaten to overrule him, Mr. Howard?
Again, we really are missing this. I mean, I think it's been a good interview, to be fair, from Trevor Phillips, for all his faults. But I think our journalism in this country and our political interviews are sorely missed, Paxman. They really, really do. Because every single MP, every single political figure that refuses to answer questions needs to get the Michael Howard treatment. They need to get it every time, every single time. And if they don't answer it, say, do you think my viewers are stupid?
Yeah, 100%.
in government to make sure people's personal or business financial issues are dealt with properly. And I'm sure the Prime Minister will set out more about that tomorrow.
But the question is, did he know that there were mitigations? Because if he knew that, he must then have known that there was an issue with the vetting.
I would say that putting mitigations in place is more common across government when people are appointed into lots of different
No, I'm not asking about...
roles.
I'm just asking, do you know if the Prime Minister knew that there had been mitigations agreed?
He knows that he was told that all due process had been followed on a whole range of different issues.
But that's an answer to a different question, though.
Yeah, but that's the Keir Starmer way. Don't answer the question you've asked, just give the answer you prepared an hour ago.
That you've been given by Morgan McSweeney?
Yeah.
Well, it's saying that he knew that he'd been given developed vetting status. What he didn't know was that the UK security vetting had actually advised against it. And that's what the whole problem... I don't want to keep coming back to this here.
What about the mitigations?
The Prime Minister...
Did they know about the mitigations?
No other minister knew that UK security vetting had recommended don't appoint.
Well, look, here's the key thing. They didn't do the developed vetting until after Mandelson's appointment had been...
And we've changed that now. The Prime Minister
I know,
changed that.
but let's go back to where we're...
Well, he recognises that was a problem and he's
Mandelson's
changed
appointment
it.
was announced, I think, December the 19th, 2024. Developed vetting didn't happen until after that. The Prime Minister announced to the world this guy was going to get the job. There was absolutely no point on the development. It killed the developed vetting, didn't it?
Do you know what? I don't...
Because he'd already been given the job.
Can I tell you, I don't agree with that, because the one thing I know about Keir Starmer is that if, even at the last minute, the day before the President's inauguration, he had been told that he had not been past the UK security vetting, he wouldn't have appointed him.
That's a lie. You just lied, obviously.
So to be clear, having announced that Mandelson was getting a job, if he had then discovered that there was...
Yeah, he would.
There was not a clean bill of... He would have rescinded this.
Yes, he would, yeah.
You know what I think that the problem here is?
And I'll tell you why, because he is a man of integrity. And
yeah, just repeat it, and everyone will definitely believe it, honest. Yeah, that's just superb politics. Wonderful.
Literally, the very first thing I would have said if somebody said, Peter Mandelson's passed developed vetting, I would have gone, what, really? He has?
Yeah.
There must be some mistake.
Yeah, like...
You ask about Oleg Deripaska or Global Counsel or Jeffrey Epstein? Wow.
Yeah. When you say he's passed vetting, do you mean he's passed a veterinary course? Is that what you mean by passed vetting? I don't know.
There is no way that he would have proceeded with that. Whatever the so-called embarrassment, he would have thought that was wrong and he would not have done it.
I know this is what is being said now, but your colleague,
but
Peter
I believe
Kyle,
it to be the
speaking to me beginning of the autumn, put a different light on this. He said that you knew that there was a risk. Here's what he said.
These are decisions that the Prime Minister made. We knew that there were risks involved, but also his talent led us to believe at the time that the risk was worth it.
You knew the risks involved.
Well, I think
you talk about Starmer as a man of integrity. He gambled, and the gamble failed.
I think what Peter was referring to there was obviously Peter Mandelson.
Also, he gambled because people like you had never held him to account.
So true.
Like the media want to like play the high and mighty high horse game here. The reason that he has felt okay with lying constantly is that whilst he was lying about the, as you mentioned, pig people, they didn't care. Whilst he was lying to try and get the left out, whilst he was lying to become Labour leader so that the right wing could take over the Labour Party, whilst he was lying about having a plan for government and lying about the fact that we were going to have tax rises or spending cuts and blah, 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 this was absolutely fine. Now, all of a sudden, there's been a great noticing that he's a bullshitter. Well, if you'd maybe pointed that out to the British public, this wouldn't have become a problem in the first place.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's that I was speaking to Paul Holden on Novara Media earlier this week, and this came up. It was just that I asked the question, like, how have we got in this position? Is it just, like, the level of hubris of the party? And he made that point. It was just like, well, yeah, of course it's hubris, because they were living in a dream world where they essentially got into government on the fumes of Tory failure. They were treated as the government in waiting months before the actual election, were held to no level of scrutiny. And basically, other than the left, other than left-wing independent media, and it seemed solely Michael Crick, who was the one going, journalists are going to feel like idiots when they realise that they haven't held these people accountable before coming to government, and they will look stupid when these people turn out to be bad, right? A real savant, Michael Crick, in that regard, who calls himself a Blairite, by the way. Even he knew it was useless in terms of the way they were covered, and they thought that they were essentially scot-free. They thought they bought off the media by refusing to do Leveson 2, by having columns in The Sun, by talking about how much he loved Thatcher to the Telegraph, and through all of this, they thought, we've played the game. We've snookered both the electorate by lying to them, and we have cornered the media by doing their bidding. So they thought, no way we're going to get held accountable. And then all of that crumbled as soon as they got into office, because they realised that they were just trying to have friendly people on side who then stabbed them in the back when it was convenient for them for business reasons.
Yeah. Also, it's a different game once you're in office, because you actually have to do things. So it is like, it's a kind of sneering line that governments use, but it is certainly true that being in opposition is a lot easier, because you can basically say and do anything, because no one really gives a fuck at that point. Whereas once you get into a position of authority, you have to actually start doing policy. Those policies can fucking keep people killed. That's important, you know?
You might accidentally point to an incredibly high position, somebody who was friends with someone who raped children.
Yeah, except that wasn't an accident. They did that on purpose, knowing.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah.
But I just want to bring up the Michael Crick quote, because again, literally, it's as if it's been put into the past. Like, you can show you that June 22nd, 2024. This was written. In 2 to 3 years' time, when Starmer and his government are no doubt deeply unpopular, I hope we in the media ask ourselves, why were we so supine during the long 2024 election? Why didn't we hold Labour properly to account while we could, and ask more probing questions and explore their records, rather than give them such an easy ride? Literally, just...
That's a proper journalist talking right there.
That is a proper journalist talking, again, somebody who aligns himself with the people currently in charge of the Labour Party. The Blair right wing. Like, he literally aligns himself politically with these people. Even he knew they were wrong-uns. Even he knew that these people would be bad in government because of the level to which that they weren't held properly to account. Deeply unpopular. That's the reality.
Yep, 100%. Thank you, Carl Brown, with a couple of gifted memberships there. Much love. And thank you, Kieran Kinsler, with 5 memberships. Don't forget you can be as generous either with myself or No Justice in the form of bits and subs and subscriptions and super chats and all of that jazz.
And thank you, Plants McGee, for the £2 super chat. You have 25 hours left to register to vote. Do it. That's an order. Order.
Order. Order.
Relationships with his business issues, and that's what Peter is referring to there.
No, he wasn't. I was sitting there. You were sitting there. I was talking to him.
Mm-hmm.
He talked about Mandelson's.
Of course,
he talked
everybody knew about that.
That was the risk he was talking about. China.
The Prime Minister...
all of these things were known to the Prime Minister at the point of the appointment. And that is what Peter Kyle was saying. You knew that there was a problem, but you decided to gamble with the country's security.
No, we did not. I completely refute that the Prime Minister would do
anything
it's
true.
to put the UK's security at risk.
Yeah, but she doesn't know what words mean. She means reject. A refutation would need a counter-argument. She's just going, nuh-uh.
literally, that's what this whole interview has been. Just like, that's literally all that it's been right from the start. And yeah, Trevor Phillips is just literally correct. They gambled and lost on an issue of national security. And again, you don't get to say, as the most powerful people in the country, as the actual government of the 5th biggest economy in the world, sorry mate, fuck that one up, you know, call it quits though, right? You can't do this, you know. Part of having integrity is having good judgment.
Yep.
The whole point of him as not just a politician, but as a professional, was all about having good judgment as the head of the Crown Prosecution Service, right? That is all about good judgment. You can't just get away with having horrendously terrible judgment when you are the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. You just can't.
Well, indeed. And of course, another gamble they took was gambling that, oh, fuck it, those people that got raped, who cares? And that didn't play out well for them either.
The precise opposite. And of course, people knew that Peter Mandelson had been sacked from the cabinet twice. I mean, that's a statement of fact.
All right. On September the 11th last year, a journalist called David Maddox wrote to the Director of Communications at Number 10, Tim Allen, saying that he'd been told by 2 sources that Mandelson had not cleared vetting, asking for a comment. Here's Allen's reply. Basically, he says vetting was done by the Foreign Office in a normal way. Was Allen being, as they say, economical with the truth, or did he just not know that there had been a problem with the vetting?
You will have to ask those questions.
Yeah, that is literally the Tim Allen from Home Improvements. Yeah.
More to the point, why did Tim Allen not tell Keir Starmer? Why is Keir Starmer so untrusted with basic knowledge about his own political appointments that his own Director of Communications didn't speak to him for 5 fucking minutes to go, wait a minute, there's got a journalist here asking us about the vetting. I don't know anything about the vetting. Okay, do you want to ask the fucking permanent undersecretary in the Foreign Office? Maybe something might be afoot here?
Have you considered that Tim Allen knew full well that Keir Starmer was too busy being serious? You can't interrupt him being serious.
No, he was too busy. He was too busy planning the dress code for his next cabinet meeting.
That's fair. That's fair, because you don't want a mixture. You don't want someone turning up in top hat and tails and another bloke in a trackie. It's going to be ridiculous. You need to have properly ordered wardrobe situation.
To Tim Allen yourself, I'm not going to speak on behalf of him, and I don't think that's fair.
He was responding for the Prime Minister to a journalist. The Prime Minister is now saying he didn't know anything about this vetting.
Let me go back to what I said. All ministers were told that he had got developed vetting status. We were not told that the Foreign Office took that decision, whereas the UK security vetting advised against. We were not told that. We're just coming back to the same issue here, Trevor. And if we had known that, he wouldn't have been appointed in the first place.
The reason this has become
So we were okay with the being the best friends of a nonce bit. That bit was fine. But if we'd known that a government department had advisedly said maybe don't appoint him, that would have been too far.
And again, just nobody thought to mention this to Keir. That this journalist is asking this thing, why didn't you ask your permanent undersecretary in the Foreign Office? Or ask David Lammy, right? For all of this attacks on Keir Starmer, which obviously there are plenty and we should continue, David Lammy shouldn't get away scot-free. He was Foreign Secretary at the time.
Yep.
Like, why did the Director of Communications in Number 10... It's not like they're going to be unfriendly with David Lammy. If you really wanted to keep Keir Starmer in the dark, because again, boy in propeller hat, lollipop, everything we've said so far, precious little boy can't bother him with these details, right? You could have at least have asked the man who's supposed to be the one with the experience, because he was a minister in the new Labour government, about this issue happening in terms of the vetting that you've been told by a journalist. Maybe that might have crossed his fucking mind.
No, but
Do you think David Lammy's full of shit? Of course David Lammy's full of shit.
No, but have you considered that David Lammy, as Foreign Secretary at the time, was too busy being up to his neck in Palestinian blood? You can't interrupt him whilst he's doing a genocide.
Honestly.
Such a big issue is that it is a question of the Prime Minister's character. People say Keir Starmer can be ruthless, but people can be ruthless for all sorts of reasons.
Who the fuck says he's ruthless? He's one of the most indecisive people I've ever seen.
He's pathetic, really, isn't he? Again, he's entirely being shoved around by other people.
Ruthless? No, what you mean is he's a self-serving careerist wanker who will get rid of people if he absolutely needs to, but couldn't fucking come up with a decision to save his life. And if he does, he'll get pressured next week and reverse it.
Yep.
Ruthless. Fucking hell, Westminster's shit.
Including that they will do anything to shift the blame for their own errors onto others. Put the blame on Robbins today, McSweeney tomorrow, maybe David Lammy the day after. Can you look me in the face and say that you still have confidence in this Prime Minister and you are happy
100%.
to be led by him into the next general election?
100%. Because he is a man of guts and strength.
No, that's the biggest lie of all. We know you don't believe that. We know you do. We know, Liz, you do not believe a word you have just said.
Pull the other one, mate. It's got bells on.
Yeah.
And courage.
Who blames every other person that he can see and never takes responsibility for himself?
He does take responsibility. And he is a man on the big decisions facing the country.
Literally, it's just no, he does take responsibility. Actually, okay.
What's he taking responsibility for? He can't even take responsibility on making political decisions because he gets other people to do it for him. He can take his own responsibility on having a prospectus for government because he asked Sue Gray to do it.
Or the millions of quangos. Nothing says decisive leadership like needing a quango, needing 2 Jet Zero quangos.
The right cause on getting a grip of our public finances, of investing in our defence and NHS, of not getting involved in a war with no clear objective and no...
Wow, I think someone might have been coached to say these exact sentences a million fucking times.
And on top of that, I hate the line. I really hate the line they keep going with, which was, this war had no clear plan. It could have had the clearest plan in the world. It's fucking illegal.
Yeah. Yeah, look, we'd have happily joined in the illegal bombing of civilian territories if only there had been a clear plan for how that was going to be done more efficiently. Yeah, thanks. I'm so glad we've got a human rights lawyer as fucking Prime Minister.
clear exit plan, who has focused on the things that have mattered to me, my whole...
And again, the Journalist Associate, literally, they've changed the chyron to Kendall, completely refute. No, she didn't refute. She rejected. Just because she said the phrase completely refute. She didn't refute it. Fucking hell. I'd say you're a journalist. You don't get away with like, well, not everyone uses the words exactly. You're a journalist. You don't get to use the excuses.
whole life. Getting kids out of poverty and tackling violence against women and girls. That is why I support the Prime Minister.
Neither of which you have done. You haven't tackled violence against women and girls. You've made it more likely. You elected appointed Yum Yum, which shows you don't give two fucks about that topic anyway. And in terms of child poverty, literally childhood homelessness has reached a peak under your government. Ever. Well, since records began. I imagine in the Victorian age it was probably higher. But since records began, let's say the last 100 years, it's never been higher. Are you proud of that, Liz? Is that something you're comfortable with?
Because on the big judgments facing...
I don't know, maybe she doesn't know. Maybe she wasn't told. Maybe the civil service didn't tell her that kids are living in fucking, living on the streets. No, that's fine.
I mean, the civil service probably told her that disabled people were living the life of Riley and she should fucking democide them.
Yeah.
...in the country, he's made the right call, no matter what pressure is put on him.
In the
what are you
obviously
talking
unlikely
about?
and unfortunate event, there are all these people under the bus. In the unlikely event that the bus accidentally runs over the Prime Minister, who's your favourite to take over?
Keir Starmer is my favourite to be the Prime Minister, to take us into the next election.
If he's unfortunate.
Let me tell you right now, with the...
That's a really dumb question from Trevor Phillips. Waste of it. What are you expecting her to say? Oh, we're streeting. Like, no, she's obviously going to say Keir Starmer should be Prime Minister. Like, it's inside a, Westminster fucking fart-huffing wank. That's all this was.
Cost of living crisis that people are facing, and with the world so uncertain and deeply frightening to people, any politician that focuses more on their future and their job, not on people's futures and their jobs, will lose the public support. That is why I back...
True, which is why Keir Starmer has lost the public support.
True.
Yeah.
Keir Starmer, because through this whole week, what has he been focusing on? He's been focusing on keeping the Straits of Hormuz open.
No, he hasn't. And by the way, it's been renamed by Trump as the Strait of Iran. He literally called it that, the Strait of Iran. This is the geopolitics understander. Yeah.
From meeting with 50 countries with Macron. He met with the social media bosses with me to hold them to account for their action. He is focusing on what matters to people in this country, and he has my full support to continue to do so.
I know you've got to go, but you're saying all...
I'm happy to chat away for ages, Trevor. Keep it coming.
But you see, what's interesting is we could have been talking about all of those things, but we can't.
I'm not going to deny this has been a testing
because
time.
of the Prime Minister's own mistake and the fact that he
because of
appears
Peter Mandelson's
to most people...
Because of Peter Mandelson's actions.
But he's responsible for Peter Mandelson to come back into the public sphere at all. It's his decision. Peter Mandelson didn't just wander in and say, "I want a Washington job," and somebody gave it to him.
Nobody said that, Trevor. So please don't put up a straw. Don't put up a straw man. You're far too experienced to do
Keir
that.
Starmer chose him. It's his responsibility. We could be talking about all sorts of other things, but Starmer made this decision.
I'm
not
denying that
the responsibility for it.
This whole torrid episode has been an extremely testing time. You wouldn't believe me if I said anything otherwise.
Okay.
I won't believe you anyway, but yeah, go off.
But what the people of this country want us to do is to focus on the issues that matter to him, to make the right big calls, and that is what the Prime Minister has done.
Ms. Kendall, thank you so much.
Superb. Great politics. That was excellent. Well done, Liz.
Thank you, Plants Begin, for the £2. Iran has only one straight and she's called commies. It's very true. They don't have any gays, though, either, so God knows what. The country of asexuals. Thank you, Hideous Lemon, for the £5. It's literally just like a football team in a bad run of form saying, we've got full confidence in the manager. Graham Souness, absolutely 100% confident.
True.
And there was another one as well, £10 super chat. Thank you, Nirian, for the £10. Well, the Supreme Court said this, and as the guy in charge of writing the law, I must adhere to the law. I couldn't possibly write new legislation. That is literally what Starmer writes keep using as a defence for Keir Starmer when I say that he's going to kill trans kids and he's going to ruin the lives of trans people. They're so like, well, it's not his decision, it's the Supreme Court's decision. They were interpreting statute. The people who make statute are the fucking government. If you don't want that statute to include trans people have to emigrate if they want to live, which is going to be probably most likely going to be the reality once we know this stuff that's coming through that Bridget Phillipson's sitting on. She doesn't want to turn it into a big thing before the midterm elections. Or midterm elections? What fuck yank mode?
De-yankification now.
Yeah. The local elections in May, right? Like, this is the reality. If you voted for the Labour Party, you voted to ruin the lives of every trans person in this country. That's just a basic fact.
Tory boy wanker, look at him.
Somebody senior in the Shadow Cabinet. Thanks for being with us this morning. Should Ollie Robbins have lost his job?
I think there's one person who's responsible for everything that's happened, and that's the Prime Minister. It was the Prime Minister's decision to appoint Peter Mandelson to the most sensitive diplomatic posting we have, and we now know that he appointed someone who was a security risk to do that very sensitive job. And ultimately, responsibility has to lie with him. We've already seen the Cabinet Office due diligence document that the Prime Minister saw that said, basically, don't appoint this guy. He's been fired twice. He's got businesses. He's had business relations in China and Russia. And he maintained his relationship with Epstein after Epstein had been sent to prison for paedophilia.
Lost his job?
I think we'll see for certain over the course of the next 2 days exactly what Ollie Robbins' side of the story is. When he goes to Select Committee on Tuesday, he's going to have a chance to speak for himself, and we'll understand exactly what went on. But as I say, Laura, what I'm certain of is that the person who is responsible for what has happened has not taken responsibility for it, and it's about time that he did.
But in terms of the senior civil servant that Downing Street has concluded was his failure, at this stage you're saying, don't know, maybe he should keep his job, maybe he shouldn't.
I have to say, on balance, I'm more inclined to think that the Prime Minister and his team are in the wrong than Ollie Robbins, but I'm waiting to see all of the facts. What we do know for certain is that the Prime Minister was in possession of more than enough information when he made the appointment, but also that he told Kemi Badenoch in the Commons in February that the security vetting had thrown up the issue of Epstein. So it appears very much that the Prime Minister was aware in February, and even if the Prime Minister knew nothing about this until last Tuesday, then he had a duty to come to the House on Wednesday or on Thursday and correct the record, which means that he has knowingly misled Parliament. The fact that he didn't do that, he was in possession of the facts, and he did not come to the House to explain that...
So even though he's blatantly lied to the House of Commons, you still won't be able to say he lied. You must say he was economical with the truth, or
He
he
unknowingly misled.
yeah, unwittingly you misled Parliament or whatever. You know, all this fucking rubbish. Whereas if you just want to call someone an anti-Semite without any evidence whatsoever, that's fine. Yeah, that's grand.
Good point by Morinaka in chat, saying, our existing US ambassador was excellent, got on well with the Trump admin, there was zero need to replace him with Mandelson. Which is why I think that it specifically tells that, to me, it is most likely that it was, a back-scratching back for Mandelson.
Of course
that it was
it was,
actually,
yeah.
here's a high-profile diplomatic post for you to thank you for your hard work in, being a fucking wrecker in the Labour Party.
Yeah.
Because if you really genuinely cared about the relationships with the Trump admin, then you would have kept the same one that the Trump admin already liked to have a good relationship with.
Yeah.
He had been in the wrong.
Well,
And that, as you know
we've just
from...
heard Liz Kendall explain that he wanted to get to the bottom of the facts, and I'm sure that will be a very lively session when he does go to Parliament tomorrow. But on Friday, your party posted a graphic online saying that Keir Starmer lied and he ought to resign. What is your evidence that Keir Starmer deliberately didn't tell the truth?
So what
Everything he's ever said.
Ever.
Again, including his marriage vows.
what he said in February to Kemi in the comments was...
Who's this Kevin? Who's he? Whoever he is, I don't know.
That when she asked him about the security vetting and whether it had thrown up anything to do with Epstein, he said yes. Now that strongly suggests that he did know something in February, and he's now claiming he didn't know it. And that would be a dishonesty.
But what is your evidence that he deliberately lied about the security, the specific security vetting issue when it comes to the developed vetting, to use the jargon, which that's the issue at hand here?
If he knew in February, he's lying now, right? Because if he knew in February, yeah, he can't now say I didn't know anything about it until Tuesday.
And your party said on the record,
I'm pointing to evidence
lied.
that I'm pointing to Hansard. I'm pointing to what he said in the comments and what he said to journalists. We also know that Dan Hodges from the Mail and David Maddox from the Independent.
But you know what's also in Hansard? George Galloway talking about spunk-loving slots.
And Zara Sultana saying that Peter Mandelson was besties with a convicted nonce.
These are both things that will be in that book as long as Britain exists as a
Although,
thing.
to be fair, not quite as good as Australian Hansard.
Yes.
Which has the phrase a risless with a risless orless unk prime minister running the show, a chopped government is what follows.
True. Love to see it.
Raised the fact that serious flags had been raised with Mandelson's security vetting 7 months ago. So the idea that nobody knew about this, I think, is for the birds. What we're going to find out over the course of the next few days is who knew what and when. But whatever we find out, we know that the Prime Minister was in possession of enough facts when he made the appointment that he should not have made it, and he will not take responsibility for it. Everybody else is being thrown under the bus. He's lost his Chief of Staff, he's lost his Head of Comms, he's lost the Cabinet Secretary, he's now lost the...
True, but to be fair, his Head of Comms and they were all shit anyway.
I mean,
they were all
fucking
fucking shit. Well, yeah, but even so, you can't argue that the comms has been good.
It's like looking at the Wicker Man and going, "Well, that's a terrible director," and I'm like, "Yeah, they're working with Nicolas Cage."
Yeah, true.
The head of the Foreign Office. Why will the Prime Minister not take responsibility?
Just on this point, though, that on Friday, and you've admitted you will find out more tomorrow. On the point on Friday,
I don't think anyone will find out anything tomorrow. They're just going to scream at him, and he's just going to answer in the same monotone fucking way he always does.
Your party said publicly in great dramatic terms, Keir Starmer lied, resign.
My party? What?
Again, just as you did about Sir Ollie Robbins, wouldn't it be better to...
I think, let's be honest, if we had joined your party, you and I would have been kicked out.
So true.
Because we're to the left of, well, Jeremy Corbyn.
Wait to hear what he's got to say about it before you are publicly screaming all over the place that the Prime Minister is a liar. I know you want, a man of integrity, a serious politician. It's not the kind of thing that politicians in this country traditionally throw at each other.
Well, it very much reminds me of this whole thing about the Dennis Skinner line about, what was it, when the
posh boys.
Yeah, when they get in trouble, they blame the staff. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's very true.
There. until they're completely sure of all of the facts. And you don't...
But of course, he's not a posh boy, is he? Because his dad was a fucking
a
drill bit, and his mum was a hospital. Yeah.
have
Florence
all of the facts.
Nightingale.
Yeah, his mum was Florence Nightingale, and his dad was a screwdriver. Fact.
Yet.
We know what the Prime Minister said in the House of Commons in February. Yeah, everybody saw it. We know what he said to journalists in February. We know what journalists were saying to Number 10 7 months ago. We know that the security services
He says
raised...
he didn't
we know...
know. That's different.
Well,
to
why did he tell the
deliberately
House of
lying.
Commons that he did then? You know, these two things can't...
Yeah, exactly, yeah. He either knew and lied, or didn't know and he's now lying. No, didn't know and he was lying then by saying he did, and or he did know and is now lying by saying he didn't know. Like he was either lying then or lying now. Either way, he's lying. Why are you deciding to die on this weird fucking linguistic hill? You're a Boris Johnson super stan, Laura. Why are you now jumping into bed with Captain Sensible? Especially because you don't look anything like a Ukrainian rent boy, so I'm not sure he's your type. Oh no, you're his type. You get the idea.
both be true. It can't be the case that the Prime Minister knew in February when he was asked in the House of Commons and doesn't know now. That's impossible. So look, there are a whole range of inconsistencies here. It's very serious what has happened, but also it's very serious that the House of Commons instructed the Prime Minister to hand over all of the documents associated with this 2 months ago. And yet the only reason this has come out now is because of investigative journalism. What on earth is going on? You know, this is, we understand that, you know, that Number 10 are sitting there trying to work out whether they should release documents under the Humble Address. That's not what Parliament said. Parliament said hand it over, and if it's sensitive, it should go to the Intelligence and Security Committee, right? But once again, this government is not doing the right thing. It is not owning up to its mistakes. And the result has been, all the way along, that we have ended up with a man who is a security risk being sent to Washington to represent this country.
The thing is, what the government have done is admit their mistakes. They keep saying, oh, it was a mistake, we apologise for the mistake. The problem is it's not really about the taking of the accountability, whatever. It's the fact that it was the kind of mistake that you just shouldn't be making. It's an unforgivable one, right?
Well, firstly,
do they deserve forgiveness now they've admitted wrongdoing? And the answer, of course, is no.
Well, it was. This is the thing. I refuse to accept that it was a mistake. They knew exactly what this was. They did it knowing full well. In fact, it was even whispered in some circles, and I have no reason to disbelieve it because it was my analysis at the time, that his connections to Jeffrey Epstein were not just seen as not a problem, but a positive boon towards his being in position, because they knew that he, just like Donald Trump, was best friends with this fucking evil piece of scum. Right? And so having those connections and being in possession of the kind of contacts and the experience that Jeffrey Mandelson, that Peter Mandelson or Jeffrey Epstein had, was a positive boon for him going to Washington. So not only did they not care about the victims, they were actively happy to use his experience of being in connection with those victims for the benefit, supposedly, of British diplomacy. An absolute grotesque immorality. So it's not a mistake, it's a deliberate act of malfeasance and evil.
In a few minutes, we'll hear from your party leader in Scotland. We've been filming.
Your party?
There's no your party leader in Scotland. That's where they split.
They just resigned, yeah. So is this going to be an empty room? We're going to speak to the your party leader in Scotland and it's just crickets.
Like a Boris Johnson empty chair moment.
Yeah.
In Scotland this week ahead of the elections, and he told us that one of the reasons the party there is having a hard time cutting through to the public is that it's still clouded by the mistakes that you made in government for 14 years. Why, now she's been in the job for quite a long time, is Kemi Bede not being able to turn that round?
Well, Kemi's been in the job for less than 2 years.
Yeah, nearly 2 years, it's a long time.
I've been in the job for 2 years.
Minister.
Who's Kevin? They're not talking about me. I haven't had a job in ages. What? I'm a YouTuber. It's rubbish.
I guess she's a fucking government minister. She was a government minister. She was the fucking business and trade secretary, and at the same time, women and equalities minister. Like, she's not an unknown fucking like an unknown person.
No, everyone in Westminster who's in a position of supposed authority is just a small bean that can't be held accountable in any circumstance. Oh, I was just a minister for years and years. Little old me. I was just head of the Crown Prosecution Service. Don't attack me for things I've said and done ever.
Well, the fact is that if you'd said to anyone going back to the general election when we had our worst ever defeat, that within 18 months, the Conservative Party leader would be the most popular leader and the Conservative Party would be most trusted on the economy, I think
your average polling at the moment suggests you would have a worse election result now than you had in your worst ever election.
It is quite funny to me that this is all true, by the way, in terms of polling. Kemi Badenoch is the one with the lowest disapproval, shall we say.
Yeah.
It is true that they're the most popular on the economy, and that is a fucking disgrace, isn't it?
That is grotesque, and the British public are just an atrocious embarrassment from start to finish.
Also, by the way, when I say it's a fucking disgrace, you better press the fucking soundboard button.
Oh shit! I don't have it plugged in. I'll do it. It's a fucking disgrace. There you go. That was me channeling my inner Bernard Manning, which is not something I will ever want to do again. But there we go. Although I do feel like being dead sometimes, so in that respect, I am a bit like Bernard Manning.
you'd have been surprised. I think you'd been surprised by that. But that is testament to
Can we get some lols in chat for Bernard Manning being dead? That is good.
the incredible work that Kemi is doing, restoring confidence in the Conservative Party.
Alex Burkhart, thanks very much indeed for coming in to speak to us on a busy morning. Well, let's go back to our panel. There have been all...
The Tories are so pointless. The Tories are so pointless that, ironically, I've literally paused it and he's behind a bollard. That's how absolutely worthless the Tories are.
But he's behind a bollard like Jenny Nicholson, for people who get that reference.
I don't get that reference, but I'll just let it go.
All sorts of dramatic conversations in the last few days about the impact of Keir Starmer not knowing about Peter Mandelson's security clearance and the rest. Faiza, firstly to you, what did you make of Ms. Kendall's...
Faiza Shaheen, they've allowed a leftoid on the panel. Okay, interesting.
defence of Keir Starmer's position?
I just find both what she said and what we're hearing from Keir Starmer.
Also, firstly, look at that forehead on the man. I don't know who he is, but that is a forehead. And secondly, talking about the snooker earlier, the one connection between the World Snooker Championship and Faiza Shaheen is that the record-holding, most winningest ever world champion Ronnie O'Sullivan literally campaigned for her during the general election. There you go, little fact.
I think. I just can't help but think, do they think we're idiots? Because, you know, honestly, McSweeney, his phone got lost. Why aren't we talking about that?
The former chief of
right?
staff.
Yeah, the former chief of staff. What was his role in this? I think he had a nickname. Mandelson had a nickname as the Prince of Darkness. It's not as if we didn't know that he was some kind of troublesome character.
No, he got that because of it was ironic because of how light and airy his disposition was. It was ironic because of how pure and awesome he is. The reason they referred to him as Satan was because he was a nice man.
And to give him such an important job, you know, to not understand that this could blow up in this way. And I really genuinely, from my internal dealings with some of these...
And again, to be fair to him, and I say to be fair, I mean from a political analysis point of view rather than a morality point of view, from a Machiavellian perspective, it looked like he was going to not just get away with this, but that he was praised in parts of the media for his absolutely brilliant creative strategy of sending this noted political expert and, you know, a person who could do real business with Donald Trump, etc., to Washington, D.C. So there was every possibility that the media were just going to be absolutely fine with this.
That's true, actually, yeah.
Look, there was no reason to believe that they were going to hold him to more account than they had previously, so why would you expect him to behave any differently? You know? Look, the incentive, again, a materialist analysis, the incentives are there for him to continue being a lying bastard, because he's never faced any negative repercussions for being a lying bastard.
Yeah, 100%. Up until the day of the election, basically.
Yeah, until look, when they were saying evil shit in opposition, everyone was fine with it. Well, I say everyone, the media were fine with it. But then all of a sudden they came in and went, right, let's freeze Granny. And people were like, I'd rather you didn't freeze my grandma, actually, if that's okay. And then the narrative was set, you know?
People is that they thought he would be good for that role because he could be good with Trump because of that background. And I think that that's why they were willing to look the other way. So I'm not buying it. I think that they will keep trying to distance themselves. But the problem is Starmer has a track record of lying. As someone that was a Labour member, when he put out his bid to become the new leader, he made 10 pledges. I think 8 or 9 of them he's completely gone back on. I think a lot of people remember that were Labour members at the time.
What was the one he didn't go back on?
Like stronger workers' rights, I guess. But then again, that same pledge also had stand shoulder to shoulder with the trade unions in it. I'm just like, as a resident of Birmingham, Kevin, I'm sure you have opinions about that.
Well, to be fair, they are standing shoulder to shoulder with the scabs going on strike because they continue to employ those same scabs who went on strike. So, in many respects, they're they're just evil scum. I can't be bothered. Yeah, no, fuck them.
And the number of U-turns this government has made in the last 2 years, it's just set itself up in a really terrible way.
True, but if you do 2 U-turns, it means you're facing in the same direction.
True.
You think about it.
Politicians often change their minds about things, so it's not necessarily lie. They might make a commitment and then backtrack on them. But Helen, do you believe?
Fuck off, Laura. If you it was an open secret in all of the media spheres that it was all a bunch of bullshit, right? Like fucking Seb Payne said there's an LBC, not even before the election he said this stuff, right? Everyone knew that it was written pure bollocks ovision, right? Like the manifesto might as well have been written on toilet paper and I wipe my ass for it. Like for all the good that it tells you about their actual plans for government. A, because they had none, and B, because it was all full of lies. Like the idea that somehow this was just a change of decision to go back on a pledge because of changing circumstances and not an entirely fabricated set of principles used to hoodwink people is nonsense, right? Absolute abject nonsense.
Yeah, literally, like, this wasn't just a slight change based on circumstances. He went from the 2017 manifesto is a foundational document to literally lying about the fact that he referred to the former leader of the Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn, Hitler, as his friend.
And a colleague.
Yeah.
It's so brazen. It's so brazen because, again, he was asked by Nick Ferrari, so you never said that. You never said that he was a friend as well as a colleague. No, I never said that. And it's on camera. It's on video. It was part of his message to the membership during the leadership election.
Well, they literally do this. I mean, I sort of made an allusion to it earlier. I think Israel does have that right bit. All of his supporters, and including himself, say, I never said that. He never said that. He never said that Israel has that right. But it's a really famous fucking clip of him doing exactly that on LBC. What?
Literally, it went fucking viral. It was the Israel does have that right. It was the text that they'd used on the thumbnail on the LBC video. And also, I'm just going to shoot you, Kev. I've got an excellent little compilation of some side-by-sides of Keir Starmer's very obvious bullshit. And it's so easy. It's so easy to prove that he's a liar.
Yeah. Uno momento, por favor. Here we go. What we got? Oh, it's on the bad side. It's on the Everything app. Okay.
No, it's not. It's on Discord.
No, well, no. The compilation is on the bad side.
Oh right, yeah. Yes.
Right.
Be here this morning supporting the staff at McDonald's who are on strike, and they're not asking the earth. They're asking for the basics. 15 quid an hour. That ought to be the norm. A fundamental shift in our policy from 2015 to 2017 and then to 2019 to a more radical politics was the right fundamental shift.
There's a lot of thinking now that the old argument that you need to just balance the book as quickly as possible just isn't right anymore.
But we're committed to updating the GRA to introduce self-declaration for trans people. They vilified him, and they knew what they were doing, and they knew why they were doing it.
And it was so important to her, however ill she was, as a matter of absolute principle, she felt that you shouldn't make money from mental health. And it is a matter of principle. It's an absolute matter of principle. I want to pay tribute to Jeremy Corbyn, who led our party through some really difficult times.
What about university tuition fees then? Will you remain committed to scrapping them in
They're
your
all
first term?
pledges, Andrew. So the answer to these questions is yes.
So university tuition fees being scrapped will be in a Starmer manifesto.
Yes, that's why it's
the
a
next
pledge.
election.
And we cannot be factional. Climate change is the issue of our time, and as the Extinction Rebellion protest showed us this week, the next generation are not going to forgive us if we don't take action. There's been lots of talk. Now we need action. I have supported schemes where cannabis possession is not arrested. You're not arrested for it, you're not prosecuted for it. And I believe in that. On electoral reform, we've got to address the fact that millions of people vote in safe seats and they feel their vote doesn't count. And that's got to be addressed. We will never get full participation in our electoral system until we do that. Don't make the mistake we made in 2010 after the financial crash, which was to think that the way through this is to go for austerity and really severe cuts to public services. That was a complete mistake, in my view. Jeremy Corbyn made our party the party of anti-austerity, and he was right to do so. We must retain that. We build on that. We don't trash it as we go forward.
Do you think it's important for people to be able to trust you?
Of course it is.
Amazing.
But it's just a genuinely despicable individual. His face makes me so angry. I don't know if you know. I probably haven't mentioned this, but just I see his face and it makes me seethe with rage. Just how much of an genuinely awful human being he is. I don't know how he looks. I don't know how he looks at his kids in the morning. I don't know how he wakes up every morning, looks at his kids and thinks he's a role model to these people. Just how much of a duplicitous, lying scumbag that he is. Oh, yeah. You can't bring people's kids into this. That's not fair. Tough shit.
Yeah.
Tough shit, mate. You're the Prime Minister. Held to a high standard.
Indeed.
That Ollie Robbins deserves to lose his job over this. You were a senior civil servant. You know many of the characters involved. You worked in this kind of world for a long time. Did he deserve to lose his job?
No. I mean, I think we still don't know. And one of the very many frustrating things about this is that there's still...
Okay. Why are you wearing a duffel coat? Can I just... Because you are on TV. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't exactly dress up to go online or anything like that. But you're... Come on now. You are wearing a little duffel coat. On the... You're on the box. You do know that, right? This isn't a radio interview.
No information. So we're still like in the he said, she said world. This is such a self-inflicted mess, effectively. Like, yes, everybody knows the appointment was wrong. Peter Mandelson resigned in September. The moment then was to get everything on the table, to both internally and externally then communicate, like what mistakes were made, what lessons have been learned, and move on. This endless dragging out, finding new processes to blame, new people to blame, new kind of shocked and outraged that the system isn't quite what I thought it was. None of us are made wiser or more prosperous or healthier or happier by any of this.
What does it tell us, though, about this government? Does it tell us that they are inexperienced, or does it tell us that they're cack-handed, or does it tell us that Whitehall doesn't work?
It tells us that they're the adults in the room and that they are sensible, and that I'm really glad that the chaos has ended. Isn't it nice, all the quiet?
So true, so true. I managed to bring that up on Navarro Media as well on Friday. I managed to do the also English. It's nice, isn't it? The quiet when we're Duncan or James O'Brien.
Nice.
Well, or perhaps all of the above. I mean, I think that what you have here is that this constant kind of looking for a process or a system or a reason why it's not working. And there's very little kind of turning back and saying, well, maybe we made a mistake, maybe we didn't ask enough questions, maybe we didn't get it right. I think people are sympathetic to how hard governing is. They're sympathetic to the fact that facts change and the world changes. I think people probably are more understanding and more tolerant of people being honest about having made mistakes and then learning and then moving on. What people find endlessly frustrating, including all of us, is the constant obfuscation, the constant not telling a half-truth or not putting things out in public, and then creating this confusing and bewildering mess where it's yet another process, yet another system failure, yet another set of people that have somehow done something wrong, which just makes no common sense.
But Matt, you went through the vetting process. You went through the, all the security checks at the time, and you went through government. What did you make of how it worked?
I mean, again, I just do think this is the system obsessing about itself. Like, the process is very thorough. It's set up to be that way. But it is the failure mode of the system that whenever anything goes wrong, we then go deep in the rabbit hole on, who said what.
It does matter, though, doesn't it?
It does matter. It's incredibly important that people up and down the country can trust the judgment of their political leaders. And yet I sort of think, because of this, you ended up spending a minute on AI with the Secretary of State. It's probably right, given, kind of the agenda of the week.
I'll talk to you about it in just a second.
But I think when we zoom out and, we look back on this period of history and say, what were we talking about? What was the national conversation at the moment that we went through this new industrial revolution? It will literally be who emailed what when, who asked these questions. And, the things that shape history are happening right now. And we're basically ignoring.
Okay, but AI is shit. So, shut the fuck up, you absolute minge. There's no analysis there, everyone. Apologies, I'm just going to say, this guy's a wanker. Stick your AI up your arse, mate.
Yeah, so true. So, honestly, Slay.
Yeah.
Them because we're obsessing over, this paper trail.
But I agree to an extent, but this does shape history because people have lost all trust in our political institutions. And then those political institutions have to manage this huge transition in AI and tech companies who have, profit. That is, for most of them, their ultimate goal. And, why should anyone trust a government that gets so much wrong on so many things? So I do think it is actually related and is part of why in this moment of history...
Yeah. No one's even talking about the fact that we just gave another 2 big contracts. Let's say we, the British government, gave 2 big contracts to Palantir this week. Not even mentioned, not relevant, apparently.
Well, they were mostly on fucking BBC Politics Live last week, being dressed down by Faisal Shaheen, and that's going to keep going ahead with this after we just totally expose this guy for being part of a company that helps Israel murder children.
Yep.
History, we have this huge problem with people just being despondent to the system.
Let's talk then about those big changes. So Matt, for people who are not familiar with your work, you've worked in tech and now artificial intelligence for a long time, and you were helping government with that. As we were discussing with Liz Kendall there, this week the government has put £500 million of taxpayers' money into helping to develop UK AI businesses. But as Faisal was suggesting, when you look at that in comparison to the huge American behemoths, are we really in this? Are we at the table at all as a country?
Well, the truth is we are at the table. And, when I was working both for Rishi Sunak and for Keir Starmer, one thing I would say a lot is we're actually lucky that we're in a position to be at the table. We're lucky that DeepMind was started here in this country. We're lucky that we have some of the world's best universities. We're lucky that we have, one of the biggest AI ecosystems in the world. If we want to continue to be at the table, though, yes, we have to do more. Sovereign AI was one of the recommendations of the AI action plan I wrote for this Prime Minister, and I think it's great to see it come together.
Honestly, the wankers like this are going to actually destroy the country. They're going to be the death of this place.
They really will do, yeah.
They're literally they're selling us the Terminator future and saying, but it's great, you should embrace it. The Thunderdome is your inevitable fate. But it's good, actually. I hate it. I hate every aspect of this.
It's really, it's just so depressing in terms of the fact that it's so difficult to penetrate. Yeah. It's so impossible to be able to actually reform or be able to overhaul in the interest of everyone.
Mm. And of course, it's really depressing that as leftists, again, we'll be proven right, but it'll be far too late.
Yeah.
But, when you zoom out, it's yes, of course, 500 million isn't going to move the needle on its own. But the point is not the money directly invested. It's about crowding in money from the private sector. But it's also about the non-cash offer, which actually I think is really exciting. We want to be the best place in the world for the top AI researchers to come and do their work.
No, we don't.
No, we don't. Take money from Survey.
No, we really don't, actually.
No, we want these people to fuck off and stop using our water supplies. I would like to drink that, please.
Yeah, AI and all of this fucking blockchain shit and cryptocurrency, at a time when we should be reducing our energy supply, or our energy usage, is just going through the fucking roof. We've rather than pulling back from the cliff edge of climate change, we're going, you know what, full speed ahead. If we drive really quickly over it, we'll just fly. We won't crash into the ground, we'll develop wings or something.
AI fast-track visas for those world-class scientists is an amazing thing. Now, there's lots more to do, but I think it's a really good starting point.
Marks out of 10 for the government's approach to AI?
Well, I think that AI action plan, whoever wrote that deserves a full 10 out of 10.
You fucking mutant. Oh, I hate people. Honestly, ironically, AI has made me hate I a lot more as well. Just people, fuck them.
True, so true.
Just briefly, a lot of people will have seen the story this week about mythos.
Maybe the robots deserve to take over. Because if we're so fucking stupid as a species that we're creating these things that are going to destroy us anyway, maybe we deserve to be destroyed.
I mean, that was the argument that was made by the sentient AI in fucking iRobot, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like we couldn't even fight against them now because they control the fucking missiles. So we can't even. They're even bombing via AI now. So you know what? Fuck it. You know what, robots? Can I at least have a quick death? Can you at least just kill me painlessly, please?
I mean, there was literally a part in when Israel was bombing Iran where they blew up a park because it's called Police Park. So the AI targeting would have thought, oh, police must be there. No, it's just the name of the fucking park.
Well, you know what they should do? You know, I've said before, my favourite thing they called the street the British Embassy is on in Tehran, Bobby Sands Street, which is, and not just that, but in Farsi, so it reads properly as well, which is nice. But what they should do is rename it to, like, IRGC Lane. Because the AI will go, fuck yes, and bomb the shit out of it. But just for legal reasons, I'm not suggesting that I wish the Iranian embassy or the British embassy in Tehran to be bombed. I'm merely doing a satirical play on the concept of AI misunderstanding the names of places.
Yes.
Which is a new version of one of the big AI models.
Although, because they're not made a terrorist organisation, you can say that you support the IRGC. What you can't say is that you support Palestine Action. So,
it's literally true.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, okay.
And there were some pretty scary suggestions that it might be able to, collapse banks and find all sorts of quite serious security flaws in systems around the world. Should we be concerned about it?
We should certainly be watching it very closely. And having complained about UK state capacity all show, I will say one of the things that we have in this country, which is amazing, is the AI Security Institute, which tracks the progress of these models. They put out a report on Mythos this week, which I think does make for a concerning read. It says that a year ago, they had a suite of very difficult tasks that they got AI models to try, and all of them failed. Mythos gets 3/4 of them right. And so the thing I think always, and I think for viewers, the thing to pay attention to is actually not what can AI do at any one moment, but how fast it's changing. At the moment, we've seen that, roughly speaking, the complexity of tasks that an AI system can do is doubling every 6 months. And so the thing that we should be paying attention to is...
And legislation will definitely be able to keep up with that change. I'm very, very cool about the entire affair, and I'm not terrified of the future.
True.
How do we take advantage of this opportunity while mitigating the risks?
Okay.
Honestly, I genuinely think we'll look back at clips like this, assuming that the human species survives, and we'll be like, as if we allowed the cunts like this to exist. Why didn't we string people like him up?
Yeah, literally, honestly, the fact that we're just, given how green and new all the AI slop is as well, and how we just allowed this shit to seep into all manners of parts of the economy with seemingly no fucking oversight.
No oversight, no check, no real balance to it at all. And if there's one thing... You go on.
And implemented by government ministers who don't have a fucking clue what they're talking about because they're idiot technophobic boomers,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they handed over all of our private data to Peter Thiel with absolutely no oversight or protection whatsoever, and he turned it into a situation where his crazy army took over everything and instituted Christo-techno-fascism.
It's literally like it's like the bit in Terminator 2 where they integrate Skynet with like US defense systems.
Yeah, like I'm reminded of the bit from The Matrix. I can genuinely see scarred, brutalised, fucked up Kevin like 20 years going, we don't know who started the war, but I definitely set the sky on fire. There you go.
Matt, Helen and Faisal, thank you very much for now. We'll be back with you in a few minutes' time. Now, it's not long until thousands of council seats are up for grabs across England. And the question of who holds power in Cardiff and in Edinburgh.
Office. They hold office.
Office indeed.
Will be settled. And it's not just the old parties.
Ironic, given that he's not really a red flag, but you get the idea.
It's Reform, too, that is hoping to make the most of this huge set of elections and grab as many seats as they can, not just in England, but they hope to make their presence.
And here we see the populist anti-Tory pair of ex-Tories. Okay, cool.
You've never seen more bigger Tory wankers in your life, have you?
He's literally, look at him. There are two people, though actually, no, there are three types of people who wear flat caps. Posh wankers like him, hipsters, and actually northern people.
Yeah.
And in Wales in a big way too. Robert Jenrick, we can see him there. He's just been on the campaign trail with Nigel.
Again, talking of careerists, he is the worst of them. Like, literally, he is worse than Keir Starmer as a careerist.
Whereas Keir Starmer makes me angry, right?
Yeah.
Like, when I see Keir Starmer, makes me angry. When I see Robert Jenrick, he makes my skin crawl.
Yeah.
He's such a creepy individual, such a perniciously nasty individual. He's really, he's just, he's the worst.
Honestly, if I ever met him, I'd have to shower immediately afterward.
Oh God, yeah. Imagine if he touched him.
Country. And
he shook
he's
his
with
hand.
us this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Let's start though with this Mandelson mess. Nigel Farage, like the Conservatives, has said that Keir Starmer lied. I'll ask you the same question we asked to Alex Burkhardt. What's your evidence that he did that deliberately? Because it is a serious charge still to make it any politician.
Well, look, I don't know whether Keir Starmer is a liar or just grossly incompetent. What I do know, Laura, is that he is totally unfit to lead this country, to tackle the big challenges that it's facing. What are we talking about this morning? What will be being discussed in number 10 today? Is it the small boats crisis? Is it the cost of fuel on forecourts, the energy bills dropping onto people's doormats? Is it bringing good jobs back to the country? Is it AI, what you've just been discussing with your panel? No.
Pause, hang on a minute.
It is the
Hang on a minute. It's really funny for him to go, is it all the energy bills dropping on people's doormat? I'm like, those energy bills have gone down by £150 at the next change of the fucking price cap, right? Your party's policy is to make that worse. By making us more dependent. Sorry. Like, Reform's policy, very specifically, is to put the prices up by making us more dependent on the thing that's just had a massive shock in terms of the price.
Although, did you see they did help out one couple who won their raffle fucking thing to have their bills paid for them? And of course, it's some middle class wankers who didn't need that help anyway, who were already convinced Reform activists who knew Nigel Farage
from the Brexit Party years.
Yeah, so basically, it was just them giving themselves money. Cool.
So almost like it was actually data harvesting. They already had picked the winner at the start, and it didn't matter whether you joined.
Yeah.
ins and outs of why the Prime Minister appointed the best friend of the world's most notorious paedophile to be our ambassador in Washington.
Well,
and that says to me...
Well, I mean, the most notorious living paedophile has to be the formerly Prince Andrew's ex-Coburg Gotha, right?
I mean, it's close, isn't it?
Like Jeffrey Epstein was, but he's dead now. So I think
true.
I think Andrew, in terms of unfortunately the living paedophiles amongst us, it's definitely Andy Pose. Andrew from Norfolk, to give him his proper title.
Norfolk, yeah.
That his judgment is terrible, and he's so distracted from what really matters to people out in the country. That is what Reform cares about. We don't care about the Westminster establishment pontificating from former civil servants and has-been...
Mate, you are the ultimate Westminster insider. What are you talking about? Like, again, you can't... Like, you're Bobby J, the guy who ran to be Tory leader. You don't get to be like, oh, I'm anti-establishment now. We don't care what happens in Westminster.
Yeah, elected to Newark as a one-nation Tory, right?
Yeah, amazing shit.
In ex-ministers,
well,
but we care about is what's actually happening in the country.
People do also care about...
If we don't care about what ex-ministers say, why are we listening to one?
True.
People do care about whether or not their government is truthful. Nigel Farage has said on the record, he said this on Friday, he said that Keir Starmer lied. You've just said you don't know if he lied.
Well, I know that he stood in a press conference in Hastings and said that the checks had been done. That wasn't correct, was it? So we'll find out, I guess, in the days to come, whether that was dishonest or he just didn't have a clue what was going on. But neither is good from a Prime Minister, is it?
But
So,
is
yeah,
it not
you're saying to me,
important-
Laura, that the best we can hope for in the defence of our Prime Minister is that he's just some sort of utterly clueless passenger sat on a train, somebody else driving it, no idea where it's going.
Beep, beep.
That's so true.
He shouldn't be referred to as PM. He should be referred to as DLR.
DLR, literally, the Right Honourable DLR.
Yeah.
Not what
I'm sorry, I don't want this man as our Prime Minister. I want a strong leader like Nigel Farage who's actually going to tackle the issue.
See, you almost had a point for a second. You almost had me, Bobby. And then you went and said the dumb thing.
That's not what I'm asking you. What I'm asking you is your boss has said on the record...
Oh, I should explain. DLR means Ducklands Light Railway. It's a driverless railway system. Although they do have people that will sit at the front of it in case it breaks down or whatever, and also to reassure people. Because people don't want there to not be a person there. So, that, yeah, anyway. But either way, it's a driverless train system, is the point.
Board that Keir Starmer lied, which is
In
a serious
London,
accusation to
specifically.
make at anybody in public life. You're saying you don't know if he lied or not. So should your boss have waited to know more before he made that accusation?
Well, the statement that the Prime Minister made in Hastings was wrong. We now know it was wrong. He didn't pass
So is he
the
a liar?
clearance. So, well, I don't know if he's a liar or not. But I'm saying...
Yes, you do. He's the biggest bullshitter ever. But then again, so are you. You know?
Yeah, it takes one to know one.
Yeah. This is just game recognising game, you know?
The thing is, it doesn't actually matter.
Doesn't matter if the Prime Minister tells
Well, I
the
don't
truth.
want the Prime Minister to be a liar, but I don't want Keir Starmer to be our Prime Minister, because what really matters to the public is someone leading this country who is focused on the issues facing the people of the country? Or are they just paralysed by the ins and outs of this process? Look at next week in Parliament. There's going to be statements, people being hauled before select committees. No one will...
And you never know, Reform might turn up for some of that and actually do their fucking job for once, maybe. Who knows?
We're talking about the things that really matter. How do we get those people off welfare who don't need it? How do we stop paying foreign aid to rich countries that don't deserve it? How do we stop the small boats? Look, the sun is shining this morning.
How do we stop the small boat? Like, yeah, how do we shut down the migrant hotels that you opened?
True.
Yeah.
The one who bragged about it as well.
Yeah.
Hundreds more people will cross the English Channel. Not
But
even from
just
France,
last
but
on
from
this-
Belgium
on-
now,
on-
we
but-
learn.
but let's
These
talk
are the
about
things that
ju-
people...
Oh my God! From Belgium, they're going to be bringing chocolate and waffles and shit. It's going to be a
Also, like-
nightmare.
So I said, oh, the sun is shining, so we can harvest it for energy, maybe? Oh, no, not that.
What we don't need is Belgians coming over here and underperforming as a national football team. We've already got that. Oh fuck! I've pressed the wrong fucking thing. Bollocks, Bobby J. Anyway, who cares?
Like Nigel Farage, who's actually going to tackle
No,
the
no.
issue. So, well, I don't... Because we're paralysed by the ins and outs of this process. Look at next week in Parliament. There's going to be statements, people being hauled before select committees. No one will be talking about the things that really matter. How do we get those people off welfare who don't need it? How do we stop paying foreign aid to rich countries that don't deserve it? How do we stop the small boats? Look, the sun is shining this morning. Hundreds more people will cross the English Channel. Not
But
even from
just
France,
last
but
on
from
this-
Belgium
on-
now,
on-
we
but-
learn.
but let's
These
talk
are the
about-
things that people really...
I don't know that fear-mongering about Belgium is really like... No offence to Belgium, you're not the scariest country in the world, I'll be honest. Like, no one's
So-
here going, oh, the Belgians are coming. No.
It's like you're pointing out Wiggle McJiggles in chat, how he said rich countries that don't deserve it. Well, I assume he means we should send foreign aid to rich countries that do deserve it in his mind, so presumably Israel.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
One more question on this matter. Malcolm Offord, who's Reform's leader in Scotland, told the BBC this week he didn't think Starmer should resign, but Nigel Farage has said he should resign. Who do you agree with?
He should be gone. And, you know, the best way to get rid...
So, ironically, given that... Hang on. So, given that the Reform leader in Scotland doesn't think he should resign, but the Labour leader in Scotland did say he should resign, that means that the Reform leader in Scotland has more faith in the Prime Minister than his own leader in Scotland.
Anna Sarwar, we do know he's a secret Reform member because he's asking Malcolm Offord for an allegiance.
Yeah.
Informally.
Yeah. They wanted to do a cheeky little nationalist revolution. Oh, sorry, a unionist revolution against the SNP. Allegedly, apparently, who knows? And then there's a brilliant. Someone sent me the actual clip from the debate because I hadn't seen it. I'd heard about it, but I hadn't actually seen the clip. And literally, John McSweeney goes like, "Oh," like he's literally about to ejaculate. It is the weirdest fucking reaction. But you know what? Enjoy yourself, John. It's the most fun you seem to have ever had in your life. Okay.
It's really funny. Like, he's just the most boring man ever to have held office in this country. He's just such a non-entity, John.
No, surely John Major. John Major has to take that. They literally portrayed him as grey. Like, and it wasn't, and no one was like, "That's an unfair characterization."
Literally, when it comes to John Swinney, he's gonna. I literally had to type out the phrase "John Swinney Mandate of Heaven" on Twitter the other day because that's where we're at. We're at the John Swinney Mandate of Heaven because he's gonna get a giant majority.
Yeah,
of fewer votes.
Yeah. Honestly, it's going to be the year 3000, and the SNP will be elected for the millionth fucking time because literally the other parties are still so shit. That even the SNP, who are despised by everyone, they still vote for them. It's never going to end. Yes, thank you, NYC Go. Yes, sunny days are bad for racists, because on sunny days, the sea is calm enough for the tiny, like, obviously unseaworthy vessels that these migrant people arrive in, because no safe and legal routes are open, so they have to do the illegal thing, or the potentially illegal thing, whatever. Certainly the very dangerous and deadly thing, because the people keep fucking getting killed by British policy, of course. Sunny days are bad. Racists are annoyed that we don't have seas so rough it deters people from getting into boats.
To the point at which previous Tory ministers had the idea of having wave machines at Dover to make the sea so choppy that the boats would collapse and they'd all die.
Yeah. That person's, I believe, in the Shadow Cabinet now, if I recall correctly.
She is.
Which is super cool. Also, that person had to resign because of having illicit meetings with the Israeli government against the wishes of the British government. So, espionage, just a cheeky bit of espionage,
Just casually, Yeah.
Anyway, yes, right.
Rid of Keir Starmer, if his Labour backbenchers aren't going to do the job, and I think we've learnt that from what Liz Kendall said this morning, is to vote for reform on May the 7th. That is the best way to see the back of Keir Starmer.
When it comes to reform, your party has said that your colleague Richard Tice made a minor administrative error when the Times had revealed he failed to pay £91,000 in tax.
Which, by the way, is exactly the same thing that they all screamed about when Bez did it. And said that she should resign. Which, by the way, I'm fine with. Yeah, she probably should have resigned, but so should this dickhead.
Yep,
Just
exactly,
saying.
100%. But again, like, we here are with principles, unlike everyone else.
Indeed. Thank you, Vicky, who says some annoying person keeps telling us to send a super chat, so here it is. I presume you're referring to my parasocial PA in chat rather than to my co-hostess with the co-mostess.
And if people want to send some more gift arenas, I've had no gifties this stream. Again, I'm not like. You lose a super chat, so it's fine.
Hint, chat. No, I'm going to do it for you. Send a fucking gifties, you pricks. I'm not asking nicely anymore. This is you've been told twice. You will not be told a third time.
Yeah, like it's this shit. I usually mostly get gifties, but I had loads of super chats. There are lots of people that when you wanted to comment. You know what? That's cool.
See, but you shouldn't be encouraging them to comment. This is not a democracy. This is a posh birdocracy.
It's true.
You get to decide this. Fuck these proles. Disgusting. Partner push 2029.
This morning, the Times is reporting that he also failed to pay almost £100,000 in corporation tax. Now, when Angela Rayner failed...
Party of the people, everyone, where you can randomly earn so much money that you forget to pay $100,000 in corporation tax.
Just like, remember Nadeem Sahawi? Like... Just forgot to pay all that tax for YouGov as well.
Yeah. Just normal stuff. Real populism hours.
Failed to pay £40,000 in tax. Richard Tice suggests that she was a hypocrite and she should resign. So if he's following his own suggestion, shouldn't Richard Tice resign?
Well, Richard is a very successful businessman.
Mm-hmm.
He's had a 40-year business career. He's created thousands of jobs. He's paid millions of pounds in
He's
tax.
not created jobs. He's a property guy.
Yeah.
He actively sucks money out of the economy. He doesn't create anything.
Yeah.
Thank you, Holland Q, for the 5 gifties.
Yeah. Thank you, NYC guy. Says, is this the guy who thinks the budget deficit can be fixed by harassing fare evaders in the tube? Literally, yeah. That is that particular prick, yeah.
Yep.
I would contrast that with everyone who sits around the cabinet table, none of whom seem to have even worked in the private sector.
That's not the question.
Well, let me answer the question.
Was revealed not. Okay, answer the question. Yeah.
Richard has taken advice. He believes he has paid the tax that he should have paid. In fact, he thinks he may have overpaid tax because he paid it through his personal taxation rather than through the company. If it transpires that he's underpaid tax, of course he'll settle it. But that is not his position. He thinks he's paid the right tax, and that's absolutely right. What Richard is actually focused on is how do we get people's energy bills down? How do we ensure that we reindustrialise the country and save the jobs that are being lost at the moment?
And you've talked about that already.
Wow, the Thatcherites now want to reindustrialise, having completely deindustrialised.
Yeah, again, like, it's crazy. They keep going. The really big problem here is that we want to speak for the deindustrialized communities of this country, because those are most of the people who are voting for reform, because, again, these areas have been neglected, by promoting the ideology that caused them to be neglected in the first place. Like, if you want to reindustrialize, you do need to have an industrial strategy, right, Robert? You will need to be able to put in upfront state capital into whatever projects that you want to do to ensure that there's an industry there. Industry won't just come here magically. You can't just, like, make FDI fucking appear out of the ether. Now, I'm sure he'll make a comment about our energy competitiveness internationally, but their project will make it worse because they want to make us hooked on expensive fossil fuels rather than cheap, clean energy.
Net stupid zero!
Literally, that is their point, is that it's net stupid zero somehow makes us uncompetitive, which is the opposite of reality. And again, these are Thatcherites. They believe that the free market is the best way of allocating capital, not state-directed. And I'm sorry, that will not reindustrialise Accrington. It won't bring the chair-making jobs back to Wickham. It won't bring back the tourists to Blackpool and Morecambe. But these places will require state investment, and you don't want to do it because you're too busy keeping the triple lock and wanting to invest bajillion pounds that we clearly, in your fucking ideology, don't have on bombs to sell to fucking Israel.
Yeah. Also, like, the Thatcherite concept of the kind of the free hand, the invisible hand of the market. All I'll say is, chat, if you had an invisible hand, what would you do with it?
True! The third hand gang, let's go.
Yeah.
But in order to clear it up, Reform's got big ambition, you've got big ambition, Richard Tice has big ambition. In order to clear it all up, perhaps you should do what the Lib Dems are suggesting, is that there should be an investigation. HMRC should look at it again.
Well, that's for HMRC, and as I understand it, they're not investigating.
Mm-hmm. But he said he would be happy to look at it again.
As far as I know, HMRC are not investigating, so there is no story. Look, of course, newspapers, we're heading to local elections, we're leading the polls, as we have been for over a year. They look into people's tax affairs sometimes. Richard has paid the tax that he was due, and that's the most important thing.
OK, Robert Jenrick, thank you very much
indeed
for coming and speaking to us on this busy morning. Well, politics is a...
By the way, Exit 101, FDI stands for Foreign Direct Investment.
Indeed.
Complicated business these days. There's a longer and longer list of parties for you to pick from, and on May the 7th, Scots will determine who will run the government in Holyrood.
You'll be the SNP.
Yes.
Obviously.
In charge of health, housing, transport, setting some taxes, and a list of many other issues. It's a chance for the SNP, they hope, to break records and win a 5th term in office, but the other parties are vying to deny them a majority. In the last few days, we've been on the trail in Scotland with politicians and the most important people of all, of course, the voting public.
It's just a shambles, and it's one excuse after another.
It's a classic, the battle bus.
How are you? Are we filming?
Hang on a minute. So Anasar was so weird that he wasn't shaking people's hands. He was doing high fives with strangers. Okay.
I mean, like, some people can get away with it. I think Zach Polanski could get away with high fives.
Yeah, probably, because he seems like a jovial enough character. Anas Sarwar is a suit.
So true.
He's not even a human being in a suit. He's just a suit.
Yeah. Ah, okay, sorry.
Enjoy those beaches.
Oh, that's delicious.
We're going to cover a lot of ground.
Also, I want to
a
say,
lot of people.
On the subject of the Scottish Greens, it's really funny that Ellie Gomersall, who quit the Scottish Greens surprisingly to go and join Scottish Your Party, must be feeling like a fucking idiot right now, given that Scottish Your Party is completely disintegrated. And she was basically guaranteed a spot on the Scottish Greens list if they... this round of elections.
What's Scottish My Party?
True.
Do I have a party in Scotland? Because I don't live there, so that seems inappropriate, really. Yeah.
Well, first up, the SNP here in Glasgow, Scotland's biggest city. The SNP is the biggest beast, and they've run the government in Scotland for nearly 20 years, in charge of health, housing, transport, all sorts of things. Hi guys, hello. Do you need to check bags? Yeah, sure.
The SNP can win a majority that will secure a referendum that we...
Sadly, and this is the disgusting element of essentially Scotland still being a colony of Britain or of England or whatever, is that it won't secure that. Because legally speaking, London doesn't have to give you that.
Nope.
And they've already said they won't. Which is disgusting because, like, yeah, it should be a mandate. In the same way that, like, if you get a large enough, like, well of support behind any particular idea, it should at least be put to the people in some sort of referendum or plebiscite or whatever. And there are other mechanisms like, you know, through manifestos and all that sort of shit. But either way, it shouldn't be down to the people at Westminster to decide for the people of Scotland how the people of Scotland are themselves governed.
It's crazy, isn't it? It really is crazy.
Like, if you're not going to do self-determination, why pretend to be a democracy at all?
True, very, very true.
Yeah.
Will win.
Oh, Chuck.
This morning for this audience was about independence. But the conversation in this election has not been about that. The SNP's record on running public services is decidedly mixed.
Yeah, I might be the only Englishman who doesn't want to run Scotland. Perhaps. I don't know.
And lots of people are worried, just like across the UK, about the cost of living.
Our turn now. Hiya, you okay? When you look at your campaign manifesto, it's full of classic, expensive gimmicks. Controls on food prices, 10 grand for people trying to buy a house, a cap on bus fares, all expensive stuff. When actually you're...
I love that. It's really expensive, a cap on bus fares. 75 billion more for the military-industrial complex. Not a fucking peep out of her.
And literally, it's not... The bus services literally do not cost very much at all in terms of operating expenses. You could probably make I think I ran the numbers. I think every single bus journey in the whole of the United Kingdom could be made free for like £1 billion a year.
Mad.
It's really not much.
Absolutely insane. We can and should just make it nationalised so you can just get on a bus and go to anywhere you fucking want to.
Yeah.
Record of the nearly 20 years you've been in charge is really mixed.
Well, we've delivered a whole host of things. So let's look, for example, at early learning and childcare. It's one of my big commitments is to further expand early learning.
Sorry, I'm already asleep. I've already fell asleep. I'm talking to you from beyond the Sandman's grasp.
Childcare. When we came into office, there was 412 hours of childcare available to 3 and 4 year olds. Now it's 1,140 hours delivered under an SNP government. I want to go further.
Things have gone backwards in many areas. There's lots of evidence that standards in schools has been declining. The NHS hasn't even got very far to recover from what happened under COVID. Taxes are higher for people at the top. Scottish businesses complain that you don't understand them. I mean, your record is patchy, is it not? Do you admit that?
I'm very proud of what we've achieved. We've got a majority of taxpayers in Scotland that are paying less in tax than if they lived in the rest of the United Kingdom. The economy is growing faster in Scotland than it is in the rest of the UK. I've got the SNP into a position whereby we've got bold and imaginative policies to set out to the people an agenda.
All right, I'm only playing. I think the Scottish nationalists are annoyed at me. What do you expect him to do? Hey, like he's Krusty the fucking Clown. You know what? Chastisement accepted. Fair play.
Which is all about creating hope in a very challenging environment. And that's how the SNP goes into this election.
You're going to get majority?
I think we will get a majority, yes.
You're confident to predict that?
I'm confident to predict it, and that's what I'm focused on achieving.
Just as the SNP have pulled themselves up Scottish Labour, although they did well in the general election, have fallen way back. We're on our way now to drop in on their campaign. And one of the big problems they've faced is the lack of popularity for the government in Downing Street. The leader here, you might remember, even said that Keir Starmer was the wrong man for the job.
Okay, but don't undersell his unpopularity personally as well. He's also not liked by the Scottish people. Even if he was going super well at Westminster, I don't think they'd be doing brilliantly in Scotland either.
No, I think that's true, yeah. Again, it's such a different beast. And that's the big problem, of course, is that the independence issue is so much more salient than I think that people give it credit for. Certainly more salient than it is in Wales by like a long shot, which means that there are some certain people who just will not vote for unionist parties. And given that the Greens know this and have stood down candidates in all but like 5 constituencies at the elections, means that the independence vote, now that Alborough's collapsed, entirely subsumed by the SNP. So they have like a base of 25 or between 25 and 30% of the electorate, and there's another 10% of people who vote for them on the grounds of the fact that they are slightly better at doing the job of government than everybody else. And the unionist vote split 5 ways.
So Alba collapsed. Can we get some lols in chat for Alex Salmon's Turfapalooza collapsing? That was
true.
Lovely stuff.
That might have separated Labour here from Labour in Westminster a touch, but it's been hard for them to generate enthusiasm.
Here comes the man with the placards,
trying to focus on the health
I
sector.
mean, look at him. Even the Scottish Labour people look like Tory wankers. Look at him.
Literally, he's like a mini-me of Malcolm Offord with less grey hair.
Slick black hair, slick backed hair, fucking sunglasses and a crisp suit on. You are the...
Briefcase.
Just briefcase fucking gobshite. Get the fuck out.
Service and the cost of living.
This is proving to be quite a tough campaign for you. Some polls are...
Also, is it just... Maybe it's the camera or something, but that doesn't even look like it's red. It looks purple.
It does, doesn't it?
Are they even... like they...
Very deep maroon, maybe.
Yeah, it's a... Yeah.
Suggesting you might actually end up in 3rd.
If you want to reject the poison of reform, if you want to beat the...
That's mad. If the Labour Party end up in fucking 3rd or 4th or whatever, like it just... Yeah, oh god, it's tragic.
I mean, they might be 3rd. They could potentially be in 3rd and in 4th in both Scotland and Wales.
Yeah.
I think it's very unlikely in Wales. I'm pretty sure it will almost certainly be 3rd. But there was a couple of polls that had them behind the Green Party, which would be fucking hilarious. And they probably will. They probably will be in 4th in Holyrood.
Yeah, which is just mad because again, it's very difficult for the Labour Party to ever form any kind of government at Westminster without Scottish seats. Almost impossible, really, given the mathematics of it. But
SNP, if you want to change Scotland, there's only one route to change in this election, and that's to vote for me and Scottish Labour on May the 7th.
But what's gone wrong? Because if you go back to the summer of 2024, it looks like you were on your way to becoming First Minister.
Well, in actual fact,
I've
been the underdog for 5 years. They said we couldn't win in 2023 in the Rutherglen by-election. We did. They told us we couldn't win the general election. We got 37 Scottish Labour MPs.
Well, that's the point. And
the
since then,
SNP
you've
got
gone
less
down.
than 10. And they said we couldn't win the Hamilton by-election just last year, and we did. And now the same pollsters, the same commentators are saying Labour can't win this election. Honestly, the arrogance of the SNP, they might want to pretend this election's decided. This election is all about what happens here in Scotland to our NHS, our schools, our towns, cities, villages and islands.
Thank you guys. See you later.
There's a lot
Have you seen the manifesto?
familiar.
have I seen what, sorry?
Have you seen Scottish Labour's manifesto?
I have not. I imagine it's a fantastic work of political genius.
So literally, it's all Tory shit. It's all Tory.
Of course
we
it
want
is,
we want to lower taxes for middle-class Tory voters and cut back services because we think that the SNP are overspending and they're profligate. The actual Tory shit, the exact same things that Tories would say about a Labour government.
Bizarrely, I think it was Anna Sowell after the last set of elections in Scotland made quite an interesting kind of contribution on the floor of the Scottish Parliament about the Labour Party needs to make a real decision about which direction it goes, because clearly trying to be a quote-unquote progressive unionist party wasn't really an option. And so a lot of the Labour Party were like, well, do we embrace nationalism then? Do we embrace separation, or like, what happens here? And instead, what they seem to have done is gone, no, let's just be the Scottish Tories.
Yeah, let's just be. I mean, to be fair, they've always been the Scottish Tories because they keep collaborating with the Scottish Tories on like a local council level. They create a unionist administrations on what shouldn't be any shared values other than unionism, which just makes sense in a local council anyway, just because of their like combined hatred of the Scottish National Party, right? And then on top of this, the Scottish Labour Manifesto is literally the most. It's transphobic to the level that you'd expect from the Republican Party in the United States. These people are vermin. They're scumbags. They are less than human to me, and I hope that the bus crashes.
Yes.
I didn't say anyone was on the bus.
Yeah. How would it crash then? Is it maybe it's self-driving? Well, if it's one of Elon Musk's self-driving fucking vehicles, it will.
Exactly.
It'll plough through a family and then crash into a bollard and set on fire. I was wondering if you were a fan of Celtic, given the number on your name, Mark. But yeah, also Mon the Hoops 6-2, albeit after extra time. Anyway,
battle buses and campaign stops, but there's one big thing that's different. Not so long ago, Labour, the SNP, the Scottish political establishment liked to think they were immune from a threat from the right in the shape of reform. Not now.
Well, come on.
Making big strides here too.
Pause. And again, like this idea that some reformer, like the surgeon force battling from the right. I mean, it's just the Tory voters. It's just the Tory voters, right? Like, they don't. I mean, let's have a look at polls. Hang on a minute. Holyrood elections 2021 was the last time. They were 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Scottish 2021 Scottish Parliament election. At that election, Douglas Ross and the Tories got 23.5% of the vote.
Yes.
And the Reform are currently polling at around 17%, and the Tories are just it's just the same voters who've moved. People keep doing this and go, oh, there's a real challenge to the establishment from Reform. And it's just the Tory voters voting for a different colour blue.
Yeah.
It's literally the same shit.
Like, literally, again, because the question of, national dissolution or whatever is a key thing, certainly on the left in Scotland, that the progressive vote that used to be Labour parties is now the SNPs. And the Tory voters have gone to Reform, which leaves the Labour Party a little bit high and dry. Because who do they even appeal to? Nobody.
Yeah, like the last YouGov poll in Scotland had, this is on the constituency vote, so it's slightly different, I guess. But on the constituency vote, it had the Tories on 8% and Reform on 19%. So 27, totaled.
Yeah.
It's much for muchness. It's just that there are two political blocks and people move, but there are three political blocks. There's the nationalist bloc, there's the unionist right wing, and the unionist not right wing, I guess, because it includes the Liberal Democrats. And the people just move between them. It's no more complex than that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Let's go to the next stop.
Reform's lost candidates who've expressed offensive views. The leader said sorry for making a homophobic joke years ago, but says his party
trying to stir up division, and you are spreading.
Anyway, I'm back now. I'd made a good point about if you vote Reform in Scotland, you're English. And
you can get arrested.